Do we launch?
Launch.
Just
Welcome,
like that.
welcome to new official home of the Alfalfa podcast. So we spent how many hours yesterday putting
At
up
least
these
17.
foam walls? There are some blemishes, some
Don't
imperfections.
tell them that.
No, I am going to tell
No,
them.
I
am
can
gonna tell
see
them.
some Armon squares that are problematic. But
This
then
whole side right here is a complete blunder.
This is after, by the way, I completely took down entire columns of Armand to
Yeah.
realign them.
You can't take down columns of Armand. I'm impenetrable.
The man does not have any.
I did lose a
He does not have any angles.
race today.
He's not a protractor.
Can we talk about the race? How much money did you guys lose on me today?
I won. My Venmo is
I bet against you, pal.
Yeah,
Yeah, I sure did.
Steven didn't.
Bountiful Venmo.
Steven, that was really heartwarming how you bet on me.
Look, I honestly thought you would beat Yaniv in the sprint, and I was wrong.
Okay, hold on. Let's paint a
'Cause the
picture.
sandbagging son of a bitch didn't tell us he has like 5 state records.
Let's paint a picture. We just came from a baseball game. Nick, his business just hosted their company retreat, which he cordially invited the Alfalfa podcast to as well.
was
Thank
very
you,
kind.
Nick.
Thank you, 4AM
and
Media.
Chris, 4AM Media. So we went to the Padres game, and naturally it devolved into gambling, as it so often does.
First of all, I wanted to entertain, is what it evolved.
Armand,
into.
thank you so much for providing the
You wanted to
entertainment.
plus the experience.
So what we
Thank you.
did, what happened was
First, I challenged Adrian to a pitching speed contest, which he
yeah,
backed out of immediately.
yeah. I
Um,
mean,
He did not. He was eager to throw against you.
No.
so yeah, there was
back
no what is the the velocity meter? There was no
Yeah.
like miles
Radar
per hour.
gun.
There was no radar gun. in
Wait, by the
stadium.
way, did you look in the Discord? I asked the Discord to guesstimate what you would throw.
Did they all say 98?
Their numbers were hilariously bad.
What
Like,
did they?
98
What would
miles
they? What
per
did
hour.
they guess?
Marty
I'm like a
McFly,
98
I
guy.
think, said 73,
Okay,
which made me really discount his tinfoil credentials because
Wow.
there's just no way. I'm sorry,
that's
Marty.
all it took. That's all
Um,
it took to discount Marty.
Look, if,
One
if this
bad
man thinks
velocity guess.
Armand can throw 73, what else does he?
I'm
what
the
else does
Randy
he believe?
Johnson of like
I would.
amateur
I
baseball.
wish I could like
pitching.
zoom into this right arm that you have here.
It's a
Yeah,
slider of the century.
yeah.
right
You
here.
don't even know what that.
That was such a
means.
weird
Actually,
analogy, by the
I
way.
don't even know.
That's like saying like I'm the Michael Jordan of amateur
Don't
basketball.
worry about it. So
Okay, yeah. So let me continue. So that velocity meter, the radar gun, didn't exist at the stadium. They took it out 2 years ago due to liability reasons, naturally.
Is that what happened?
What do you think
instead-
happened? Do you think people just
Blew
tore
their
rotator
arms out.
cuffs
Yeah,
like
yeah.
every 3
This
days?
is
Yeah.
obviously too dangerous to
Yeah,
have in the
it's a
stadium.
bunch of lawsuits.
There's drunk morons like ourselves in there that are going to hurt ourselves.
Yeah.
So in lieu of that, we just had like a physical foot race where Armand and one of Nick's partners, Yaniv, raced. It was probably like a 40-yard dash ish type thing.
yeah. No, it was more.
Maybe
It
like a
was,
60-yard dash,
60-yarder.
60-yard dash,
And
and
the motherfucker's like a gazelle.
yeah, what Yaniv didn't tell anybody is that he set state records in high school, and he slow played that. He
I
told
don't even
me.
know anything about like.
So he told me
track.
that on the side,
Yeah.
and I took action on Yaniv, of course.
Of course.
But I did give Steven the choice. I said, Steven, it's your call. Whoever you want to take, I'll take the opposite side.
Anyway, the money alpha here is to gamble with your head, not with your heart.
Mm.
My head knew that Armand was going to go down in flames, but I felt bad.
Oh my god.
I felt bad after just absolutely shitting on his arm.
Yeah.
Which I now feel validated for because there's no way after that legs. Like, the man plays soccer for a living. There's no way the arm is better.
So
So-
First of all, soccer players aren't fast.
So are you?
No, seriously. We
First
can't
of all, they are.
sprint.
Hold on.
No, we're
Soccer
faster
players
than
aren't
like a freaking, like a lot of other types of athletes.
Baseball
But,
player.
but a track athlete, the guy is a track. First of all, shout out to Yaniv. The guy's a goddamn gazelle. First of all, this
10.8
guy's like 5'7".
10.8 in the 100-meter in high school, he said.
Yeah, I don't even know what that means.
I've clocked myself.
I don't even
I
know
have
what that
no idea what that
14
means.
seconds. I've clocked myself 14
Within
seconds.
3 seconds, he was like 6 feet beyond me. It was just like unbelievable. It looked like I looked over at him and I just completely gave up. He was just like flying. He was
Well, I
just
don't-
guiding.
Well, that's
gliding
normal
in
with the
air.
short guys, but I thought you would kind of
I
accelerate.
literally stood
And
no
it was
chance.
apparent to me after 2 seconds that you were not gaining any ground.
Yeah.
And then I just took the bill out of my wallet while I videoed you, and it was over. And that's
welcome.
that.
Thank
You're
you,
welcome.
Steven.
So-
Thank you for the $20. I'll put it to ETH, and I'll be like,
Yeah.
doing my part.
Yeah, we'll look
Not-
out for the green candle.
Not
Yeah.
the first $20 I lost today.
I'm here to entertain. That's why I do this podcast.
Can we
I'm
talk
an entertainer.
about? Can we talk about the other wager that was on the table? I think that was
Yeah.
Yaniv betting $20,000 that he'll be able to throw 70
right.
miles an hour.
That's right. No, Steven bet Yaniv that there was no way he would hit 70 miles per hour within 17 months.
We can't just
17
watch a
months?
baseball game.
He
Can
just
we?
pulled it
No.
out of his ass. You really pulled that out of your ass.
What?
17 months? Like, what was that?
No, 17 is a funny number. I just like to say it because
I
it
do
sounds
too.
funny.
I like
17 months.
47. I'm
Were you
Way
ready to, like-
funnier than 12
Were you ready to
months.
go 20K on this wager? Because
Absolutely, because if I bet $20,000 on Yaniv, there is no fucking way he's going to sit there and go, okay, wait a minute. Am I going to wake up every day for the next year and a half for like $1,500 a month and train to throw a baseball? No, and he's just going to give up.
I
and
mean, if
it'll be
I was
over.
going to win 20K, I'd
Like
do
if
it.
I bet him $1 million, then I would be concerned. I still think he would lose. I don't think he's going to throw a baseball 70 miles an hour.
Whatever
But-
this is, I like it. I'm with this whole
Degenerate
like,
gambling?
Yeah, just like maybe we start like recording these. We make it part of the pod. Like we do a little bit like.
I love
on the
that you guys are all
footage.
coming full circle now in my prior life. You're like, it'd be fun just gambling for money all the time.
I mean, if we can.
well, is your life fun today? You still gamble for a living, I feel like.
Yeah, I gambled like $20 and lost, and I was like, haha, I'm
Hmm.
stupid.
I kind of feel like you gamble just using lines as the justification.
It's fine. It's fine. I had a bad day trading, and I
Oh.
lost $20
It's not
on
a good
top
day.
of
To,
it.
it's not a good day to make that
Uh-oh.
joke. My bad.
What
What are we talking about today?
Let's talk about
Yeah,
what
we're
we're
gonna
talking about.
We're gonna
and a quick-
segue into
and
the
a
actual
quick-
podcast
so-
now.
Yeah. Well, no, there's no segue. It just happens.
It just happens
Just happens
spontaneously.
without- it just happens.
All right,
You don't
do
even-
it.
You don't even know what's
Do
happening.
it. Segue me.
So
You don't even know
little bit of Alfalfa podcast update. Obviously, like we have a new home. We're settled in. We're going to be doing this once a week now, and we're going back to the old format. There was a time, sort of our goats and our OG members will recall when we transitioned from one long episode to 3, and there was some controversy around like, is this the right move? Should we do this? Is this good? Is this bad? And we did it, and we stuck to it for a while. Then we went to 2 episodes per week. And as many people know, we sat down and we record just once a week, but we were dividing it up into multiple episodes to give people like money, politics, and life. Anyway, we're back to an everything episode, and we're going to be covering money, crypto, politics, culture, and life, and technology, and all the things within this episode. And we're going to be live streaming it. So, long story short, show up at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on YouTube every Wednesday to join us live. And we're going to be making this better and better every week, or you can listen on the podcast player of your choice on Friday mornings. We hope you join us live because we're going to be doing a lot of fun stuff. And as you can see, we've really invested our heart and energy into creating a really fun space for this to do this live. And
Look
have
at
some
this
fun.
studio, guys.
It's
Can we
really
take
awesome.
a moment? Can we take a moment
It's
to
Look at
really
appreciate
us. Look at us.
it? Yeah. Who thought we'd be
Yo,
here?
Can we just
act
give a
like
shout
you've
out-
been there?
Can we give a shout out to Steven for that nice little piece right there?
Out of all of us, I didn't
yeah.
think you'd provide a decoration accoutrement.
Look
that,
at point to it, you guys, just real quick. It's like a sheaf of wheat, like as if it were an alfalfa emoji.
And then are we thinking about like a neon sign here in the
Sure.
center shot?
Well, we don't really have a third camera to even capture that right
We'll
now.
get it. We'll get
We'll
that.
get there.
Get there. We'll get that going. So we're talking about ETH today. We're talking about some price predictions from all the way from bearish scenarios all the way to very bullish scenarios that we'd like to see. And then we're going to transition into doing our best to uncover what's going on with the Ledger Recover program and product that they've released, which will be an interesting discussion. I'm actually really excited about that because I want to dig into the nuances of that because we've talked about this a lot. And I think that they're trying to do something good for adoption. Then we're going to dive into Karen AI, which I'll just tease by saying there's a chatbot of a Snapchat influencer that made $71,000 in 1 week. And yeah, we'll see where else we go from there.
Sounds good.
So
If you're not excited about ETH price, my friend, you're critically underexposed.
all right, why don't you kick us off, Eric? What's
Sure. Well,
Any alfalfa round?
Let's go in the alfalfa.
Okay.
Okay, so the money alfalfa that I want to share today. Well, I didn't want to go first, but I will. Okay, so today was a sports day for all of us. We went to the Padres game, right? We watched the Champions League final. I have talked to Armand for a long time about how I don't have a soccer team that I root for, but I do now, my friend.
I thought you do.
Well, I kind of really do now.
Yeah.
Manchester United.
Yeah.
This is like leading into my alfalfa, you guys. So Manchester United has a publicly traded equity. It's ticker symbol MANU, MANU. Manchester United is getting taken over very nearly. Okay, so it's owned by.
Is it the Saudis?
No.
Qatar.
Close enough.
Same, but diff maybe.
Yeah.
Qatar. There's two bidders. Okay, so it's owned by this.
Saudis are bidding.
Okay, so it's owned by an American family. They're called the Glazers.
They've been blowing it.
The Glazers own the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think the Florida Panthers. They're this wealthy American family. They own Manchester United, and I think the people of Manchester have grown tired of this ownership group. They're like rioting on the streets. They're like boycotting outside the stadiums. They're saying Glazers out. They're like,
because just for context, it's like, Man U might be the most renowned club in the world other than like Real Madrid. So like for them to just not be at the top for so many years is like people are losing their minds.
Beautifully said. Thank you for that, because this is like my thesis towards my money alfalfa here is that like this asset is very valuable. Okay. So when they're selling this thing, right? Let me just say that the stock price today is about $18 and change. And that equates to about a $4 billion enterprise value on the asset. I think this thing sells for an immense premium above that. So let's just use comparables for now. Chelsea Football Club just sold for 5.25. The Washington football team called the Washington Commanders sold for 6 something. The Denver Broncos sold for 6 billion something. So Manchester United being this like top tier asset, I think will command a premium price, well above its current enterprise value of 4 billion. So what I'm doing on this is like selling the shit out of put options, and I'm buying common. But like what I would like to do, like I think as we get closer to like an actual deal, I would like to buy call options. If the buyout, if the takeover occurs at $5 billion, the stock price would equate to about 30. It's at 18 now. So I think we even go north of that.
Yeah.
I think we go well
That's
north of that.
Severely underpriced.
Yeah, and you know what, dude? We've talked for a long time about soccer. Like I've kind of been agnostic to the whole. I've just been a fan of the game.
Weren't you a Leeds guy?
I'm a Leeds guy because like it's like. Well, Leeds has the 3 American players, so like I'm rooting.
I love that.
I'm rooting for America on that one. But then when I get into it more, it's like, well, selling so many goddamn puts on this thing, I better be a fan of Man United.
Wait, so the market cap right now is 3.1 billion, ticker symbol MANU. So
yeah, so 3.1 billion doesn't include the debt level. I think they probably have like 700 million in debt, so it's probably like 3.8 on the enterprise value. If they sell for 5 billion, that would still be under Chelsea, which I don't think they would sell for under, like below what Chelsea sold for. I think they actually sell for above. So there's a bidding war between a British billionaire and Qatari sheikh, Qatari sheikh, and the sheikh is like coming in with higher dollars, and the British billionaire is saying like, well, I'll let you still control 20% of the business, but come in at a lower dollar amount. So I think that bidding war is like just pushing these prices higher. Like I am comfortable selling the puts below even current market price. So price today, 18 and change. This thing went IPO in 2012 at like $15. So like I'm selling puts at 15. Like if I'm buying this asset at its 2012 price and it's 2023,
that's fun alfalfa.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. And I get to be a little fan of Manchester United. Like if this thing dips below 16.5, like I'm going to be put to a lot of shares. I'll probably be a 10% minority owner. So, then I'll really be a fan. But as of now, this is my money alfalfa.
I like that.
Yeah. It's fun.
And it's like you kind of feel like a supporter of the team, a financial supporter of the
Yeah.
team while you root.
I love that it's
Not just a degen gambler.
related.
Yeah. So bottom line is like, I think this is a win-win scenario. Like I'm like the premiums because the volatility is high, right? There's a takeover bid. What I find in like situations like this, like takeovers, you have like really high upside volatility,
Yes.
but then the options get priced on both sides. You know, it's like these are priced on Black Scholes, which is prices in vol.
Right.
So like I'd happily sell the puts, and if I lose them, fine. Like I just own the common, fine. It's like a steep discount to what I think the actual valuation is.
Yeah.
Can you imagine trying to shill
That's brilliant,
Bitcoin
bro.
to the Qatari sheik?
I'm sure this Qatari Sheik probably has like plenty of Bitcoin.
But he's just like, yeah, we it's called oil. We have that. We sell it.
Yeah, we don't need your coins.
He's like, but oil's still 70. He's like, yeah, well, we just print like 100x of it and still sell it for 70. And then we buy soccer teams.
This is so good.
What are we drinking, by the
We're
way?
drinking the Nika, by the way.
Wait, is
I'm-
that the Nika?
I'm having the Nika
The
from
Nika
the barrel.
from the barrel.
I really like the Nika Days.
I've never had that actually.
Obviously, Yamazaki 12 is pretty outstanding.
Shout out to Japan. You guys are
I
really
can't
good at
pronounce
making
this
whiskey.
one, though. I can't.
Thanks,
can you guys-
Japan.
you guys pronounce this Scottish?
Sponsored by Japan.
I mean, it's a Scottish word, so
Yeah, it feels like it's a German word.
Yeah, that looks German.
Auchentauschen.
Eric,
it's really good.
Max in the
actually.
chat wants to know what kind of money are you making on the puts? Like, how do you characterize that?
So it depends on like how close to today's price you want to go. But like I have my own metric. I'm gonna switch to my own camera. I have my own metric that I've devised, which Nick has seen before, which is I call it the juiciness factor, which takes into account not only like the implied vol today and the premiums that you're getting, but it's like the covered return that you're getting on the share. So here's what's hard about selling options is calculating returns.
Right.
And the idea, what makes it hard is that like you basically don't have any collateral that you're putting down. So like you earn premium on nothing. Your return's infinity essentially. So what I use is called the covered return, which says like, if I were to lose all of these contracts, how much money would I have to put out? And then I calculate my return against that. And to Max's question, long story short is like, I can go like 2 standard deviations out of the money to a place that I feel very comfortable buying this thing and earn like $50 per contract. And I'm selling a ton of them.
Do you know off the top of your head what, like, if you had to equate it to an annual return, what that looks like?
Like on a weekly, it's it's infinity. It's
Right.
infinity.
But if you do the cover
on
call,
the covered return, it's well over the 1% a week that I am
Your goal.
targeting. It's like probably double or 3 times. No, it's actually 5 times that. The juiciness factor is above 5.
so we're talking about like 250% annual return.
If you were able to capture
Right.
this on like an ongoing basis, which you can't because like it's all about the takeover of all. But
And the other assumption is you're okay holding the common if you get put the shares.
and that's my like real alpha is that like to me it's a win-win because if I can buy it at its 2012 valuation and it's 2023, what's happened since then? Like asset prices.
How much is Barca going for?
Unfortunately, they don't have a common stock. I would probably
Wait.
like
How
to
many
own that.
teams have stock?
Yeah,
Is this super common?
No, not many. And in this particular case
So
too,
Man does, Barca does,
No,
and
Barca does not.
Barca does not.
Barca does not. That's just Armand's favorite team.
wow.
That's Armand's favorite team. It does not have a common stock. I think there are few that do. There are a few that do, and like here's the problem, honestly, with like here's the downside with what I'm doing, is that like I'm playing a game that is speculative in nature. So like MANU as a business doesn't make money, and this is like common throughout all sports franchises. These businesses exist at operating loss pretty much every
It's like
year.
owning a winery.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what they tell you. But didn't Jerry Jones buy the Cowboys for like $8 and now
It's a
it's worth
zero
like
cash flowing
$19
asset
billion?
that appreciates amazingly.
That's it. So like you
Those
buy
numbers
the-
weren't real, by the way, but they were approximate.
Yeah. So you buy a sports franchise knowing that you're going to have to like make cash outflows to operate this team, but over time, like the valuation will increase, and then you
Mhm.
sell it to somebody else at a higher price. So that's the game I'm playing. Like,
Sounds familiar.
I'm buying it at like 4 billion, and then I'm hoping to sell it to this Qatari sheik at 6 billion plus.
I like it.
And they're in a bidding war, so like they're literally bidding over each other. Here's the problem: the British guy is not buying 100% of the business, so he might not buy the common shares off of me.
But the market will correct to whatever the valuation
You
is.
would hope that the market sort
Okay.
of like that gap narrows,
Interesting.
but that's the game I'm playing.
Okay. All right. I got a little different type of alfalfa. So I was sitting in the airport, and there's a lot of debt ceiling talk these days. So I had some time to waste, and I figured I would walk through the 2011 debt ceiling
Wait,
timeline.
So you're at the airport.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hold on, paint the picture.
I'm at the
You're waiting
airport.
for a flight.
I'm waiting for my
You go.
flight, and I'm like,
Hold on.
You know
You
what
know
I
what
need.
I should
You know
do?
what I need.
I was curious.
You in a lounge at this point, or where are you?
I'm sitting ready to board A1 through 15 on Southwest, the bus.
Damn, you're not
and,
even at Vino Volo. You're not. You're in the
Yeah, it wasn't even
fucking
Vino Volo
seats.
in the winery. And I was like, man, I wonder what happened, because it gets referenced often. Like, what happened in 2011? What happened in 2011? And the short of it is that the stock market tanked 20% in a very short period of time. So I was trying to figure out, well, what was going on and what was the timeline? So I'll give you my notes on it. Kind of what I learned is that in January of 2011, Timothy Geithner said, he was the then Treasury Secretary, he sent a letter to Congress saying, hey guys, between March and the middle of May, we're going to run out of money. So you need to raise this debt ceiling now. Fast forward a couple months later, he says, May 16th is the drop dead date if you do not raise the debt ceiling. And around that time, there was a little higher unemployment, and it was slightly increasing. I think there was like unemployment was around 14 million. So it was quite a bit higher than it was now. We're at secular lows. So keep that in mind. A deal, I mean, this was like in the press every day, like Obama versus John Boehner, who's a Republican head of the House. And they were just going back and forth, like bloody mess, going on 60 Minutes, battling each other and whatnot. But the short of it is that they didn't reach an agreement until like July 31st, well after the Treasury Secretary's said deadline. They actually did reach the debt limit on May 16th, and the Treasury started moving around money, literally not paying some bills. The market didn't really make a move until about 3 or 4 days before the deal was reached on July 31st. So in that first bit, it went down 10%. And I think because the market was like, oh shit, we're well
Market
past
as in stonks.
right stocks. The S&P
Just,
500 is what I was looking at.
Stonks. It's pronounced stonks.
Stonks, sorry.
Yes, sorry.
Yeah.
Strong stonks. And it went down 10% before this deal was reached. Once the deal was reached, it went down a further 10%. This is like well after Obama signed it into law.
Wait,
And
what year was this?
This is 2011.
We went on 20%?
Yes.
Was
We
this-
quickly started to rally back, but it was a 20% in a couple weeks.
Do you remember what was going on in 2011? Like, was this the time when they were like furloughing government employees and
There was a government shutdown.
yeah, there was
also
a full
during that time,
shutdown.
yes.
Yeah, I remember this personally.
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly. And so the one thing to keep in mind is that at that time, there was a little higher unemployment, and the biggest part of that deal was spending cuts. And so spending cuts equal less liquidity in the market. And so I think that's something to keep in mind. Like, if we start to see a deal forming and there is heavy spending cuts priced in this, you could see even after a deal is inked, maybe the market doesn't like that there's less fiscal stimulus being put into the market. And then the other part that we're predicting, and this is going back to our net liquidity calculation, which again is the the Fed balance sheet minus the reverse repo facility, and then minus the Treasury general account. Basically, the government's got about like $80 billion left, and that's not a lot of money to have in their checking account.
Mm-hmm.
And once a deal is reached, they're going to refill that checking account by issuing bonds and T-bills. And so that's going to suck a fuck ton of liquidity out of the market. And so we could see that pull net liquidity down right after. So let's see if spending cuts are on the table, and how quickly this thing starts to.
Has Janet Yellen updated her guidance at all, saying that we would be out of money by what was it, June
1, and also first week of June. But I think going back to 2011, we know there's quite a bit of wiggle room when it comes to like shifting around payments, as anyone would if we were all about to reach bankruptcy. You just kind of like stop paying some people, put it off, move some money around, that kind of thing. So anyway, I thought share my notes on what I was looking at in the airport.
20% down.
20% down, 10% before, and 10% after the deal was reached, which I thought was interesting.
You know who doesn't care right now? The NASDAQ. You pulled up
Because
that chart.
it has those 5
It's
stocks
just
that are
like-
just performing.
It's just like, fuck you, I'm going up. It just
Yeah,
it doesn't care.
No,
Doesn't
'cause
care
the-
about anything. It's like
that's-
banks failing, up.
Because Nick
Debt
is
ceiling, up.
Nick is exactly
it
right.
Just doesn't care.
It's driven by 5 components, and like the S&P, same. It's driven by its 5 largest components. It's market weighted, so like
Right.
it's being held up. But the breadth is fucking disgusting. Everything down, I think.
It's also hard because like if we're talking about it on this podcast, it's probably priced into the market. It's like there's very little that we talk. I think there's stuff we talk about in crypto that's not priced in because crypto is this very like Wild West, borderline autist / opposite of that market where nobody knows what's going on. Still, smart money can't participate and weird stuff happens. But I think like stonks, if you will, like
Pronounce
everybody-
it right, buddy.
yeah, sorry. Everybody knows everybody knows about the debt ceiling. And you get these weird periods where everybody knows, like the banks are failing, the debt ceiling's happening in the wrong direction, and it just keeps going up. And then you start asking yourself, like, wait, am I supposed to be buying here? Am I
Well,
supposed to be
the
buying
market
here?
rallied today off of some like just positive comments, like both sides saying we're not defaulting on our debt, as in they felt confident that they'll reach a compromise. But that also happened. If you read back to the timeline of 2011, that happened multiple times. So we'll see. I mean, I feel comfortable betting on like just the political strife and like just pure disagreement between both sides.
Do you feel like you want to be short this market eventually, meaning like within the next
I
4
revisited
weeks?
my asset allocations also in the airport, and out of my liquid net worth, half is in play and half is in cash.
I
which
remember
is
when
a lot more than I.
on one of your Alfalfa rounds, maybe a couple months ago, you said, if I see the S&P go to like 4150, then maybe I take a few more dollars off the
Yeah,
table. Like here
I
we
did
are.
at 42 and change, I think. And so
Liquid
if we
net
go to like
worth.
42
Sounds
and
so good.
change and 43 and change, yeah, I'll certainly peel more off.
And then go short even,
also no, not short, just in cash. And also if Bitcoin, hits that 30K mark, even goes above, I think I'll shave that off too. I think it's weird. This like time I felt very comfortable with cash. I don't know if it's just like feels good emotionally just to like know it's there, and it feels
Must be nice.
comfy.
Yeah.
Uh,
I'm like almost borderline college mode.
just tilting.
like literally like getting close. No, I'm fucking around, but like it's this is when you want it. Like this is when it all counts.
Yeah.
It's like this is how you want to be prepared to take your time to deploy. And you've been very observant and cautious and waiting for the signals for a while. And like the fact that you're saying like you're exactly there where it feels good, half in, half like ready to deploy. I think that's exactly.
I mean, the play
where
has
you wanna
been, chop first half of the year, and then
yeah.
assuming some kind of down big second half of the year, and we'll see if it comes. It certainly may not.
yeah, I think that's the key, is that you're comfortable.
How would
because
you feel though? Yeah.
Well, you're
like-
comfortable because you haven't been tested. Like
Mm.
if you did your strategy, you sold at 4,300 or whatever, and then Bitcoin goes to 50K, then you're like, "Oh,
Tilting.
What did I do?
I'm tilting.
What
Yeah,
did I do?
Do you have no spot?
I do.
Okay.
I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Crypto, I think, is 9 or 10% total.
You're such a nit, but I'm glad you have something. Yeah,
But
not
out of,
having
out
any
of, out of
spot
liquid
is
net worth,
silly.
it's a lot more, because
Yeah.
keep in mind, a lot of my net worth is in illiquid real estate. So
Yeah.
it's not like I can like sell it and
Poor guy.
I just wanted to just yell at you.
Yell at me. Yell. What do you got to say?
No, just
Chirp.
pussy shit.
Yeah, all right. I'll happily forward you my annual return.
I think he's enjoying the chicks in the mail.
He's got that.
Chicks in the mail.
He's got that
Bricks.
mailbox money.
I just wake up and there's chicks in the mail.
Mailbox money. I keep
I think
hearing
he
so
has
much
no
about.
problem with that.
Nick
Call
gets
me a pussy if you like, Brett. I'll still get all the chicks. All right, I got some alfalfa. for
All
you
right.
guys.
Oh,
Hit me, baby.
No, it's mostly a very quick comment. I'm proud of myself for not buying Pepe. Like
I am extraordinarily disappointed in you.
I
for not
said
buying
that
Pepe.
people will get hurt. I said that I'm going to pass. I maintained my composure to not get involved. And I say this knowing that, like, we have a friend that turned $1,000 into 5 million and eventually got out for high six figures. And that's remarkable. That's incredible.
He paper handed
so-
at 700K,
Yeah,
800K.
no, he got out for
Paper handed.
700 and then
And
watched
then
it
it-
go to 5 million.
Oh, excuse me. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Poor guy.
Yeah.
Poor
Poor
guy.
guy.
Sorry.
$1,000.
So
$1,000.
sad for you.
So, like,
Smooth 700x.
I was not in that position to have acquired that shit coin for, you know, at the price that he did and at the time that he did. And therefore, I knew that I would be chasing a hopeless dream, and I decided to pass. And in the past, in that cycle, I've made the mistake of chasing stuff like that. And, you know, you and I were talking, Steven. It's so weird to sit next to you. I don't know if I like it.
I feel closer to you, actually.
I feel closer to you, but I
Don't
don't
you
know
feel
if I,
better with this
I
arrangement?
mean, I feel good. Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
but
I
you guys
like
aren't
it,
gonna
but, like,
yell at
it's
each other.
less combative, and I'm not certain about this.
Give it a second.
Like how this will be for our
I
relationship.
feel like I want to yell at you more than that guy over there.
Do you? Okay,
Yeah.
I'd like.
He's
to
so
see it.
far away from me. I can't. I barely know his name.
Let's see how it
Maybe
goes.
you'll feel comfortable to throw barbs because you're just sitting
Yeah,
next to each other.
maybe I'll just.
I will
No.
actually just stab you.
Just
I'm gonna
you wait,
get a
Steven.
little.
It is
shank.
stab.
Just you wait. I'll
We are stab distance.
start calling you an R word very
Oh,
soon.
Steven, Marty caught up to your comment.
Oh, no, Marty.
But I remember, like, you were like, I was like, dude, if we were in the hype and the euphoria of the bull market and we were in meme coin land and that was the thing, then yeah, I would have chased it because depending on when I got in on that little mini meta game, I would have seen higher upside and I would have played it and I would have exited. And you called it easy. You're like, that's too easy. But you like to gamble and you like hard mode. I like easy mode. And to me, that was like not easy mode. It was hard mode. I wasn't willing to play it. I wasn't willing to gamble. And I passed and I feel good about it. So I guess my alfalfa is just like, after you've had some reps and you've taken your notes and you know what your plan is, just fucking execute it. Like know what you're comfortable with and execute it and be okay with it and be proud of it and be willing to come to your friends and be like, yeah, I stand by it. Like I'm glad I could have made, 100% if I traded that perfectly and doubled my money, but like I'm okay because I didn't have to think about it for those 2 weeks at all, and I'm happier that I didn't have to think about it and I didn't stress for those 2 weeks. So that's where I'm at with it.
Okay, I'm not trying to be a hater here, but
No, it's okay.
I think still after all of this, Pepe is up almost 2x after when you declared you didn't want to buy it.
There's so many things up 2x though.
No, there's nothing. It's
No,
only
I mean Pepe
It's
was
only
the
Pepe.
talk of the town. It was where all the attention is. But it's like I don't need 2x trades in a 2-week window right now. Like
But
that just doesn't do it.
I
For me.
agree. And like there's some people who just need to get the turns right. The big macro turns. Like, are we risk
That's
on,
it.
risk off, risk on again?
What
And
am I
like,
gonna do with a 2-week win on like a small percentage with a tiny little bag? Like
Right.
I'm never gonna full throttle on a 2-week trade. Like it's just not gonna happen.
Okay, for the audience out there, if you know that you can double your money in a week, you should definitely do it.
No, but
You
no,
should definitely
that.
do it.
No one knew that.
That's so
retarded.
not financial advice. No.
Look, it's
Like-
right in the thumbnail.
Let the
It's right
record
in the
show that
thumbnail. I
Nick
don't
just
have to
dropped the
announce
R
that.
word. First R word. First R word on air.
No.
Okay, I'm partially trolling, but there is some alpha in there, right? They're sort of two philosophies to trading at the extreme. One is the lotto ticket philosophy, where like I'm gonna just drop $100 into every frog coin I see, and maybe one of them will 10,000x, right? And then there's sort of like a trader mindset where you're like, wow, this trend is so fucking stupid, but I know it's got a 2x in it. I know it's got a 2x in it. So I'm gonna get in, I'm gonna get out, I'm gonna humbly double my money, and then I'm just gonna go away. If you can do that, and I'm not saying like most of you can't do that. I probably can't do that either. I'm just lucky. But if you can do that, that's perfectly acceptable strategy, right? You just have to know what you're doing. Like, what is the trade and why am I doing the trade? Yeah, I think it's perfectly fine to wait for the. I think the guys who make out the best in the meme frothiness are the ones who wait and they go, okay, yeah, it is fully redacted right now. I'm going to jump in the pool.
Can you just please acknowledge the survivorship bias of like meme coin frenzies? Like at least acknowledge it that it
True.
exists.
Absolutely, which is why I'm saying is
Okay.
if you can trade, it's better to be a trade. It's better to be the humble trader who goes in, collects 20%, 30% in like 2 days and gets out. Like nobody's making a Twitter tweet about that, as we call them on Twitter. I'm told nobody's tweeting about that. Like, oh, I made 30%. Everybody wants to see the guy who made 700x on Pepe. But for everyone, there's like a survivorship bias thing. For every one of those guys who tweets, there's 100,000 people who threw $1,000 in and it went to zero, right? So that's like a false fantasy. So chasing that is silly.
Can I ask a question? Because I'm an Armon when it comes to this stuff. Like I know myself at this point. I'm a slow compounder. That's in my DNA. But when I look at something like this, I see pragmatism. Okay. And what I see is this. It's like for people who have a lot of money, it makes sense to just earn 5.25% in T-bills. That's great. You're going to make a fuckload of money just by having no risk. But for people with not a lot of money, you should get some exposure to these things. Like our buddy Dan, who put $1,000 into this and turned it into $700,000. That's after he took a fucking 80% haircut. Like that's fucking awesome.
Well, to his credit, his commitment to being at the cutting edge of the industry paid off. The guy's in every Discord. The guy pays attention to everything going on. He's always looking for the next little piece of alfalfa.
And cracking at it for 3 or 4 years, by the way.
He's been swinging and missing many times. Like him and I have talked about multiple misses. And all it takes is one of these, to Steven's point about the lottery game. He got one right, and it's life-changing. So I think that's incredible if that's your game, and especially if you have the time, and the wherewithal, and also the balls to play that kind of game.
And I think
like it takes big
back to my
balls
point.
play
If
that kind
you don't have a lot of money, like if you got a lot of money,
Yeah.
you don't have to worry about this shit.
You don't. If you have a few $1 million and you can kick back, and you're like, I only need this much to live off of for the rest of my life, and you can earn your 5%. Like, why would you gamble anymore?
And you gotta like troll these fucking discords and shit. Like
What?
it's a hard life.
What do you guys think?
Yeah.
Dan gonna pay his taxes or no?
We should stop calling him Dan. We should call him
Jason?
I was gonna say
I thought his name was Jim.
Billy.
but Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought his name was Jim.
Okay.
So Jimbo, enjoy your spoils.
Let's,
fantastic.
Do you have any alfalfa, or do you want to talk Van Eck?
So I don't know if it's alfalfa, but I had a long, sometimes I comment on a tweet and then I end up in this like 7-day back and forth where they keep responding, and I just have to keep.
Wait, this is real?
Yeah.
Steve,
Oh
you
my
need bigger
God.
problems in life.
Wait. Do you argue on the internet, or is this more intellectual?
No, it was intellectual. It's
Okay,
it's
that's
actually a thing I'm interested in.
Yeah.
Right. So you get a lot of
I'm
engagement.
seriously just curious. I have no exposure.
Yeah, no,
to this
you get a
world.
lot of
I don't know what you're
engagement
talking about.
in ETH Twitter land if you go, ooh, look at ETH earnings, and then you make some tweet about the price to earnings ratio. And this is like a grinds my gears thing, because like I feel like we can't put PE ratios on ETH, right? I feel like it kind of makes sense, but it doesn't. Like it's something that's directionally correct, but it's wrong. It reminds me actually of the Bitcoin stock to flow model, like a few years ago, where everybody was like stock to flow, stock to
Wait,
flow, and everybody
It's
jumped
still
on that.
happening.
Oh, he's trying to bring it back. Yeah,
Like,
RIP Plan
see?
B. Yeah.
if you still follow Plan B at this point, just delete your Twitter account and invest in index funds. Like you're gonna die. So just stop. Like that whole thing is
Great archetype for how to create a sort of like viral.
But by the way,
Handle,
he
though.
got me hooked in a little bit. Like,
I
he
mean,
got my
he-
He was
attention.
one of the first people I ever learned about.
Look, I
Right.
think the guy's like a million Twitter followers at this point, right? But like it really exemplifies what sells on Twitter. You throw a concept out there that looks
Yes.
elaborate and intellectual and complicated and make it, but you simplify it, and then somebody grasps it and they go like, ooh, I'm understanding this inside information that's complicated and not understood by the world. But in actuality, the model doesn't make any sense. And stock to flow is just retrofit to Bitcoin price. And there were a lot of people, not like a lot of notable maxis, by the way, but like there were people like Nick Carter, I remember, and Eric Wall, I remember, two people in my brain who were like, this is total bullshit. Like this is not a real thing. But so many people went along with it because it fit their bias. It was like Bitcoin up. And I think ETH is doing a similar thing now. It's like, ooh, we're looking at these fees and we're putting a PE ratio on it. And it doesn't exactly make sense to me, right? Because the demand for block space is sort of priced in Gwei, right? And it doesn't really care what the USD price of ETH is, right? So you're basically saying like, ooh, ETH price is 80,000 and we're charging this much like for every transaction, and then we're gonna, oh, that's a 9x PE. That's wow, that's so undervalued. But if the price of Ethereum fell by 50%, then it would be an 18x, and if it fell by 50%, it would be a 36x.
So because you're earning in the asset itself, the price up and down is reflexive, and that
Yeah.
if ETH goes down, so do the fees.
So what this felt, I think his name was Figo.eth. What he said to me was like, he was like, oh, it's like an exchange rate problem. It's like if you were investing in an Indian company that had their earnings in rupee, and you were like, whoa, I'm denominating in dollars. Those earnings in rupee don't make sense. What if the rupee goes down 90%? And my retort was like, no, it's not exactly like that. It's if the Indian company was paying out earnings in their own stock,
right,
which was then denominated in dollars, but it wasn't necessarily tied to the earnings. Like there's like a disconnect there.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to throw that out to you guys. Like, do you feel the same way about the ETH PE chatter? Like, does it feel weird to you?
Absolutely. I think like this is the big problem with anyone who's tried to value this asset using traditional methods, is that you run into this like circular reference that you're describing.
It's recursive, right? That's what it is. Yeah.
Yes. And it becomes sort of impossible. And the other part that I've had trouble with,
You've brought this up since the very beginning.
the other part that I've had trouble with is when you're valuing the token versus the network. So like, oh man, it like when you're participating in the network, you're paying the fees, and that's going to what? Like it's going and it's being burned by the network. But then like, that benefits the token, but it's like also the network, but it's also like, what part benefits the token in this way? Like I've literally done backflips sitting here trying to think of like how to actually think about this. Like is this a cost or is this a revenue?
And you're someone who's probably like looked at like 1,000 10Ks of
Oh
like
my God,
SEC annual filings and done this like traditional valuation.
Yes, like I've looked at ETH from every valuation method that I've ever learned, of which there are probably 70, and it's so fucking hard to dial it in. I haven't been able to, because of these simple problems that you're describing. But to like move towards our topic, like this Van Eck valuation model, I think, has done the best job of representing sort of like a realistic approach, and the outcome we can all, we can discuss, but I think the approach is reasonable. And granted, there are these issues,
Right.
that-
So they're basically including transaction revenue like gas fees. They're including
They as in the Van Eck
sorry,
people?
Van Eck analysts, which I went back and actually looked at some previous videos they've done. I hadn't seen a video or an interview of this current analysis.
Yeah. So for people watching, we're talking about the Van Eck. Did they do ETFs or something? What is their base?
They do. They have
they're
they're
like a
Bitcoin futures
TARDFI company.
ETF. They applied for a spot ETF. They're very heavy in commodities like gold.
Yeah.
no,
So
they're a TradFi company.
Yeah, they're a
They-
TradFi
like they
company.
manage money, and
TradFi,
they
same
basically
thing.
just have ETFs for like every industry
Yeah.
vertical.
okay. So what Nick's referring to is, like, to their credit, they put out a very from what I've seen is the most, I think, thorough valuation model of Ethereum that exists, and they attempted to put like a future and a present day value on the token and a whole bunch of like discounted cash flows on it, and like really break down where that comes from. So we're talking about that right now because we want to try to get from the point where we're talking about ETH on like this PE ratio, which is not good, to this like more complicated model, which I think has some merits to it, but which I think still shares some of those
Right.
flaws.
So let me put one place where I kind of agree with them. So they have this the baseline price model takes a free cash flow multiple, and they apply a 33x. So I was actually playing with Google Bard, and I said, "Hey, can you give me like examples?"
Can you give
of
me a teaser? Are you a Bard guy?
I'm been a Bard guy lately.
Dude,
Yeah.
this is
Real
gonna be
time
a-
data, baby.
This is
Stay
going to be a
tuned.
great
Real-time
device.
data.
I'm a big Bard guy.
Anyway, I asked it. I said, "Can
You
you give
look
me
like one.
examples of companies that have, an under 10x free cash flow, 10 to 15?" And then I said, "What's over 20x?" And it gave me Apple, Amazon, Alphabet, like all those like kind of FANG type stocks. They're in the like low to mid 20s. So to put ETH at like a 33 is not too far of a stretch. So I agree with that. But then you look at like their revenue numbers, and I think this is, Stephen, where your point comes in. It's like, okay, base case is $51 billion in revenue in 2030, but at what ETH price, right? Like if ETH is at 1,000 or
Yes.
20,000, like the
So-
model changes recursively.
So they used a really good analogy in this report, which I was like, I read it and I was like, yes, that's the problem. They started likening ETH to Dave and Buster's tokens.
Right.
Where like people really love Dave and Buster's and they want to play games and everything, and they're buying the Dave and Buster's tokens to play the game, right? And then they're like, well, ETH is kind of like the Dave and Buster's tokens. And yeah, that's the problem. So then you get into this question of like, what the hell is a Dave and Buster's token worth? Like the Dave and Buster's token isn't tied to some revenue multiple of Dave and Buster's. It's just like complicated supply demand model. It's like akin to the dollar. It's akin to any foreign currency. Like, why does a currency have value? Like currencies don't necessarily have value because there's like an earnings multiple or cash flows applied to them. Like there's this complicated, like, what's the trade deficit? What are all these other, there's like all these complicated metrics underneath the hood that equate to sort of supply and demand at the other day. What is the demand for the euro relative to the dollar? And like, we want to simplify it to this, oh, there's these earnings, but it doesn't exactly make sense. Like, yes, the more people who want to go to Dave and Buster's and play the video games, all else equal, the Dave and Buster's token goes up, but is it really tied to USD Dave and Buster's earnings?
Their price targets are anywhere from $300 to $50,000, and so in the
by
Dave and-
2030, right?
right,
Yeah, this was the part that grinded my gears with the whole thing.
Yeah,
I'm
I mean, I kinda
I
get,
don't
like-
take this. I can't take any of it seriously.
Probably accurate though.
I get the bear case where it's like fucking nobody uses it, like it just stops getting used, so that's why it's like $300.
But of course, that's like in the realm of possibility. Like, I don't know.
Well,
I think if you're gonna do this at all, you you sort of like
It-
double down on a specific direction.
The model breaks when the Dave and Buster's tokens you get, literally the price of them is so volatile. It goes from 300 to 50,000. Like that's where the model breaks. And I hope when they get some interviews, maybe they'll come on and we'll chat about it with the two analysts who did it.
Yeah.
But like, this is the main question we need to ask them is like, how did you derive those fees and at what ETH price? And how do you factor in the volatility of the asset that is like being translated into dollars itself?
So to give people an idea of what they're projecting, they took 2030, and so by their metrics today, ETH has like 2.5 billion in revenue, which I still think is sketchy because it's not dollar revenue, it's ETH revenue, and then you value it in terms of the ETH exchange rate to dollar. So it's a little bit weird, right? But 2030, their base case is 50 billion, I think, in revenue.
Yeah.
Their bear case is 2.5 billion, which is today, and then their bull case is like 130 billion or so, 136 billion. So like a 60x from here. It's a really, really wide range. There's some interesting tidbits under the hood there. Like, for example, they think 20 billion of that is MEV. 20 billion of the
That's
50
a
billion.
lot.
It's a huge chunk. And in doing that, they said that MEV is currently like, they put it at like, they did some weird, this is super wonky, but they put some like equation of like, oh, it's basically equivalent to 2% of TVL, and it's going to go to 0.15%, right? So it's going to, like, margins in that are going to be compressed because they think applications and layer twos and everything, they're going to say, hey, this is a really bad experience to have our users sandwiched by Jared from Subway and like get absolutely wrecked. So we're going to look to kind of compress that. So that 20 billion amount is like taking that into account, and it's still like a pretty high number. And they had like an approximately equivalent number for like metaverse and social versus financial. They actually put metaverse and social as like I think like 30 or 40% higher in terms of revenue than financial. And then they had this other category, like infrastructure. So they're like, there's going to be 50 billion in revenue in 2030. It's going to mostly be metaverse, social, then financial, then MEV, then like kind of baseline infrastructure.
Did you happen to see the bit about L2s and their kind of thesis on where value will accrue?
Yeah, I thought that was super interesting.
Yeah.
What they say? They said 90-something% of all transactions were going to be on L2s.
I have it in front of me. So 98% of all transactions will occur on L2s.
98%.
But 50% of the dollar value will still happen on L1. Because
So the take rate is very high for ETH.
yes, like the value happened because some transactions need extreme security, composability. Like maybe punks will never trade on an L2. Like they'll always be on L1, and maybe the provenance of being on L1 is what gives them value and back and forth. But so they said that like margins for L2s range from 15 to 40%, and that as L2 competition increases, that will like reach perfect competition around 10%, and that they believe the majority of the value will be still accrue to ETH, the asset, which is something we've talked about before. So it's nice to see someone take a position on it.
There were some other interesting numbers in there. Like, for example, they looked at they looked at like Aave. They're like, what percentage of fees paid to Aave go to the app Aave versus ETH, right? And I would have actually thought it was like 50-50. Like Aave fees they don't feel like they're super high. And I feel like ETH is really extractive compared to the fees on Aave. But they were saying that actually Aave gets like 90 to 94% of the fees, and the other 10 to 6 or 7% go to ETH. And then they said that was like actually kind of almost equilibrium. They think in the future that applications that run on ETH are going to extract 97% of the fees, and then the rest of it goes to ETH on the base layer for facilitating that infrastructure. So that was interesting to me. We're already closer to where I thought we would be going. We're almost at like the end point already in that regard. So I thought that was interesting. Another thing that they said in this report that was super interesting is like, they basically said that, here's the direct quote from the report. It said, curiously, unlike most enterprises where businesses pay the overhead of rent, electricity, and the rest, users directly pay the overhead of interacting with the on-chain businesses, so that on-chain businesses host and chief vendor Ethereum. So they're basically saying that like when you go to the mall to buy something, you pay for the product. And if you go to Sephora to buy some makeup, you buy the makeup, but then they're paying for their rent and all this stuff, right? But
like,
on ETH,
the customer
you
doesn't
are
the customer doesn't pay for the electricity to turn on the lights in Sephora and shit separately than they pay for the makeup. They pay for the
right.
makeup.
Like ETH is this weird ecosystem where you go to the Bank of Ave and you pay like all of their
Overhead.
infrastructure and overhead
Yeah.
costs in your transaction. And I was like, that's weird. I'd never heard anybody phrase it like that. And I was wondering if that's going to be actually a sustainable
No,
thing.
I think
Seems
eventually
not,
right.
right? Like it seems like in the future, the Aves of the world would absorb that cost and sort of obfuscate it in a way, and they would be competing to have like a lower, cost to the consumer to get the end product that they want.
So EJ, I have a question for you.
Hey man,
Hey, how are you?
not bad. Yourself?
Splendid. Yeah, wee bit tipsy, as I just said in the chat. So you've been doing this analysis for as long as possible. You've tried 70 different ways to do it, and you feel this is the best that you've come across. What do you think of the price targets, and where do you land, like with your critical analysis of the whole thing?
If you don't mind, can I give you a 2-minute masterclass in valuation?
I would
Ooh, please.
Yeah.
be honored.
Jordan, clip it.
So as I
Here it comes.
as I look at this model, what I see is that like when you approach a valuation, there's 2 ways that you value anything, and one is called relative valuation, and one's absolute valuation. So relative valuation is you measure the value of something relative to something else. Okay. So in tech companies, you would say, this thing's trading at 5 times sales. Well, I'm growing at faster rates, so that's 6 times sales.
Yep.
Or in a home, you'd say like, oh, this 3.2 home is selling at 700K. Well, I'm a 3.3. I should be trading at higher than that. So it's a relative valuation. And then in the other side of that is an absolute valuation. Okay, so what Van Eck is doing here is an absolute valuation. Absolute says like, this is what this thing is worth, independent of what anything else in life is worth.
Mhm.
Okay, it's based on its own merits, its own cash flows.
Intrinsically.
Intrinsic value says that this thing
Yep.
should be worth X, and they said that like, okay, this
It's more difficult to do by nature, right?
it is exponentially
Okay.
more difficult to do. It's
Thank you.
way harder to compute.
was
Thank you
hoping
for
you'd say
saying
that.
that, because an absolute valuation, like if you get it right, hypothetically speaking, an absolute valuation, if you can calculate it correctly,
It's ultimate power.
this is going to be the exact value of the
It's the ultimate.
asset.
It's like having the crystal ball.
Versus like what we talked about before, the relative value is like it's a quick and dirty method, but there are so many plausible ways to get that wrong along the way.
Right.
The quick and dirty is pretty shitty. Absolute is very good, but it is very hard to get correct. So what Van Eck is attempting is inherently very hard, and they are trying to pinpoint how, like, what the cash flow value of the ETH network is, assuming that the ETH network is a mall, and assuming that ETH network is going to rent out their block space like a mall rents out their
those
Squarespace
storefronts.
to Sephora and Sharper Image and Macy's or whatever. And ultimately, it's the consumers who walk into that mall that buy the products from Macy's and Sephora or whatever, but the dollars flow to the mall owner as like they rent block space or Squarespace. So when I look at that approach, I'm like, this is directionally correct. I love it. Steven's questions are valid. Like, how do you value it when you have this like reciprocal sort of circular problem? I don't know the answer to that yet, but I think Van Eck is on the right track. What you found is in the output of what they said is like, hey, this thing based on our discounted cash flows could be anywhere from 0 to 50,000. That's like, okay, well, that is the problem with an absolute valuation, is that
Sure.
here's what happens in an absolute valuation. You have a numerator and a denominator. The numerator is the cash flows, the denominator is the discount rate. Let's keep the discount rate out of it for now. Where the valuation model goes right or wrong is all about the numerator. It's all about the cash flows. So if you project the cash flows to be X, Y, or Z, your valuation is going to basically follow that. So
Hmm.
what Van Eck is basically saying is like, if the cash flows are not coming in strong, that's our bear case. The valuation of ETH, the asset, is going to be weak. If our cash flows are going to come in very good, then that's our bull case, and it's going to be 50K. So like, what I would challenge anybody to do is to like use their model. I think this is the alpha here, is like use like their framework, because it's like directionally correct. Use their framework. If you believe in either their bear case or their base case or their bull case or somewhere in between, any of that, use that and say like, okay, based on my assumptions of the numerator, which is the basically the demand of the network, make your own projection of the demand, and then you can easily sort of like assign your own valuation to ETH based on that, because that is basically the intrinsic value of ETH. Like, they did a good job. The only thing we can argue on is like what the future looks like in terms of demand.
Yeah.
So I have 2 follow-up questions, and maybe we can answer those as we wrap up this portion. But before we do, I have a ask for the audience. If you don't mind, as you're watching in front of your phone or your laptop, hit the like button. It certainly helps get the live out to friends and family, and helps us grow. Yeah, and I'll cheers you to that. And if you don't, I'll see your abstention in the analytics. So I'll see you. But my question is, first off, one, do we think ETH right now or in the very near future will be valued off these traditional valuation methods at all? And then I want to know what your guys' 2030 prediction is for ETH, because the reason the Alfalfa podcast talks about crypto in the first place is because it's the highest risk return asset, we think, presently. And if there was something else, we probably would talk about that most of the time. So I'm curious what you guys think. I got my own kind of like number in mind, but I don't know. Anywhere you guys sit. First off, are we even valuating this asset off traditional methods? Will it be valued off revenue in 2030 even?
No.
Okay.
No. It's a new kind of asset.
No to that specific question.
Yeah, like we're trying to apply these old ways of thinking to a thing that's never existed before. Like if you take something like gold, why does gold doesn't have cash flows, but it has value because there's some, you call it like a monetary premium. And then there's some sort of demand for it in industry. And then there's some sort of demand for it in terms of, oh, this is just a scarce thing that hedges me against the debasement of the dollar. And then the more people who believe in that specific meme, the greater the demand for that narrative, and then the greater the price. Like, what is that formula? Nobody knows that formula. It's complicated. And gold, I think, is a really difficult thing to price because it is very widely held by like central banks and large world banks, and who knows what they're doing with the supply. And you're just sort of along for the ride with that, right? Whereas like Ethereum, we can be very confident that the US government does not hold like 8% of the supply of Ethereum or something. It's just not a thing. So you're in before any of those shenanigans happen. The other thing about Ethereum is it does, like, I know people have talked about this sort of a triple point asset meme a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It has properties of a commodity. It has properties of a bond. It has properties of a currency. And I think it's sort of difficult to weigh all of those things together. But I think what you can understand, right, is like, look, this thing is going to zero, or it's going to 30,000, 50,000, whatever you want to call it, right? It almost doesn't matter. It's a thing in your portfolio that is like an asymmetric bet. Like if I told you could have a bet that you could lose, which is going to zero, or you can make 20, 30 times your money, you just take the bet. You're not like, well, is it 20 times my money? Is it 10 times my money? Is it 50 times my money? Is it 100 times my money? It almost doesn't matter. Like you have to allocate something to the bet. Like if you believe in the general direction of the meme, as we all do, like we all think, I think here, that this is like a super interesting asset that the world doesn't yet understand, then you need to be allocated to it. You don't have to be like all in, but anytime the world offers you a bet where the downside is you lose everything, so -1 doesn't get worse than -1, but you get like +20, +30, +50, +100, you just take the bet, right?
Can I go?
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think that's like directionally correct. My presumption with ETH specifically is like that maybe it doesn't trade on like a traditional asset multiple or something like that, right? Maybe it doesn't. That's okay. Like gold exists, and I've always like used Bitcoin as the proxy to gold. Okay, so like I one day believe that Bitcoin will surpass the value of gold. This is my supposition. And gold is worth $11 trillion today, and Bitcoin, if it were to surpass that, would be $250,000 per coin. Okay, I haven't done this math for ETH, but like maybe ETH, plays along that same path too. Just to play devil's advocate to Steven, it's like you should be tethered to something, right? Like you should be tethered to some value to say like, well, if ETH goes to 50,000 or 100,000 or a million or something, like at some point you'd want to know where that is an unreasonable valuation. Yeah, like we would all agree on that.
Yep.
And like, I haven't like done the moon math necessarily yet to see like where the unreasonable valuation is. What I know is that right now is
so in other words, the comps to historical ways of evaluating these types of assets are necessary to a certain degree.
Well, yeah, I think
they're part of the meme,
or
right?
helpful.
I think.
Yeah,
I also don't know if that's well. I'm gonna illustrate a totally absurd case, right? Imagine I told you ETH was going to go to 0 or was going to go to literally $900 quadrillion.
Okay.
Like at that point, you wouldn't be like, well, I can't really invest. Like, is it going to go to 900 quadrillion or 1 quadrillion? Like, I don't know. Like at that point, there's just a part of your portfolio that is so insignificant, and the asymmetry to the upside is so great that you stop thinking about it, right? And you're not necessarily even trying to exit. I can just tell you, like, look, it's a lotto ticket. It's a lotto ticket you lose 90% of the time, but when you make at least 1,000 times your money back, you're just going to play the game. You're going to be like, okay, like I have to just play this game. I don't have to worry about what the exact upside is. I just know that it's so beyond the EV of my lotto ticket that I have to put it in my portfolio. And I don't know if it's 0.1% or 1% or 3%. It's probably not 10%. I think that's like an interesting question, is like, where do you go assuming that's like a Omega lottery ticket?
Yeah, and I want to start hearing some price prediction, boys. 2030.
Well,
You want to wrap it up with the price predictions, or do you want rebuttal?
I want Eric
sir?
to finish his thought, but then
Rebuttal.
I want to hear.
Give me your thoughts on my thought.
I mean, your point is fair. Like if it's a lotto ticket, it's a lotto ticket. You allocate to a lotto ticket, but like
It's a good lotto ticket. It's a rigged lotto ticket in your favor.
It's a good lotto ticket, and I would harken back to something that you've put me on, which is like when you enter a trade, and this is different, right? Like because we're talking about an investment, not a trade, but you've put me on this idea when you're going into a trade, you know what your downside is and your upside is, and like for me, to have the upside just be X question mark and have downside be, like not 100%, but 90%. Like I would like to know with a little more clarity, like what I'm expecting on the upside. And for me, how I would discern that is to tether it to, either an absolute or a relative valuation that makes sense to me. An absolute one would be like how Van Eck does it, or a relative one would be like comparing it to another asset class like gold or whatever. And like I think that to me makes more sense than just being like lotto ticket whatever.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you more directly. If assuming ETH works, let's assume that whatever your concept of ETH works, it's 10 years in the future, and we're like, oh, that worked. What do you think is the minimum price? Like in a bad scenario, but we're all like, yeah, ETH is a thing. It's got 70% of the smart contract demand.
I just don't even understand what that means personally.
I think like Van Eck's bullish expectation discounted using a 12% discount value is probably correct.
Yeah.
So I mean, what I digest your kind of like perspective as I still need to assign probabilities to it because you're right. It
Yeah.
is a lottery ticket. But like when you put the price at will ETH be at 4,500 by 2030, I'd say that's more like a 90% probability. But like when you say will it be at 50,000, I'm like, well, I got to lower that
Okay,
probability.
I agree with you, but what I'm trying to say is the probability equation you're using in your investment thesis is more like it works or it doesn't. Not like what is the actual, well, when it works, is it worth 1,000x or 100x? I almost think that doesn't matter. It's sort of like, what is the min case if it works, and what is the probability?
Assuming you don't
of
have an
that?
opportunity cost that's of similar like returns, right? So
Yeah.
I'll give you
Of
guys
course.
mine. So my 2030 is in the range of like 18K to 25K is where I put like my baseline projections.
You
So-
arrived at this price by calculating the amount of feet to Mars and dividing
exactly.
by.
No, so I actually I still like the logarithmic regression curve. The logarithmic regression curve is used for things that have a network-like effect.
Mhm.
I like it. It takes into account diminishing returns as the network grows, and it is priced to fit off previous data. Bitcoin, I think, is the better one. So I actually, and by the way, logarithmic regression, you can look at the rainbow chart for Bitcoin. If you don't want to like look at the math version, it's a quite elegant chart. I'd say it's broken
Did
only
it
a few
break a
times.
little bit? Recently?
Broke a little bit, but that's essentially what we're looking at is like an asset that has a network effect that grows in such a function where the returns diminish over time. And
But the
and
rainbow chart has recovered, right? Like
yeah,
we're back within
we're back still in
bounds.
very very strong buy territory.
Bitcoin rainbow.
Yeah.
So I like looking at the Bitcoin price, and then I kind of like take my relative price on ETH. It's a very crude method. Like Van Eck is, like you said, absolute method. I'm looking more at a relative method, I think. And so anyway, that's what I'm looking at because I've had these tough decisions where like I think I've told you guys like I'm looking at a multifamily property, a storage unit, or buying a car wash that could make anywhere from 6 to 9% cash on cash, annual returns of 20 to 25%, which has high probability. I have high conviction in it. And so, I think ETH will perform well over 100% annual return, closer to 200% annual return.
Yeah, that's
And so I'm making these tough decisions now where I'm used to just shoving cash in those. But anyway, that's where I put my price prediction at. And
But over how many years of
7 years.
volatility? Okay.
7 years.
All
7
right. I
years,
really want to get
wow.
to the part where I've been having sex with this like AI bot.
Okay, so let's get there quick.
All right,
I've
so we're
been
gonna wrap up the
sexting
money
to
episode
shit
No, but
there.
you motherfuckers got to give me a number.
Well, we still got to talk about. Okay, let's get a number. We got to talk about the ledger thing, and I want to get to this chat
All
bot.
right,
that I've been
Armand
having
has yet
sex
to
with.
master the art of the gentle segue.
We've literally
Just wants to
we're-
jam the next
I'm a
segment
jammer.
in.
I'm a jammer.
I was trying
pile
to
driver.
hand it off
I'm a
to
pile
you.
driver.
Hand it off to you.
My brother's. No, should I say this? No, I shouldn't. No, Persian pile driver. No, it just came
you
out.
said it.
Okay.
Let's,
So let's.
all right. It's just Giorgio, can we edit that out?
What is wrong?
We're
with that?
live.
The
What do
man is a pile driver. What is he gonna do?
Born pile driver.
Okay, so you want some prices?
Can you guys give me a fucking range? Like
I haven't had
Yeah.
a chance to speak about the range.
it takes
We've been on this for an hour. We
27
gotta
characters
go.
of speech.
Look,
We gotta go. Give a range.
what year are we talking?
2030.
2030.
7 years. Call it 2 cycles.
I think 30
Yeah,
is
2 cycles.
I think 30 is optimistic. I think it's reasonable. I'm just trying to 10x. That's my
okay.
thing.
10x over 7 years is well over 100%
ETH
annual
because
return.
I think it's an asset that if you have a bunch of cash, you can shovel a lot of it into. Not financial advice. It's not going to go to zero, probably. And you just get a smooth 10x and you just chill. You stake it. Also, 10 years from now, if the rate remains at like 3 or 4%, you'll have 40% more of it, maybe 50% more of it. So that's pretty cool too. You can leverage it up if you're a huge degen. Maybe
Wait, if you're staking in the
70% more of
meantime,
it.
you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Like by the way, the staking yield has been more
Juicy.
robust, I think, than people have predicted.
But do any of you guys stake?
Yes.
Okay.
I
good.
stake it, and
Nice.
I use not for all my money,
No.
but I've talked about this a little bit. Gearbox has been like it's a leveraged ETH staking protocol. This may age badly, so don't clip this, but I think the most secure of them. but still, like I have a
Today.
small chunk in
It's
it.
okay if it's the most
It's been
secure
I've
than
had money in
today.
there for like 7 months. It's been over 20% for like 6 months straight.
That's
like,
not
so.
gonna
Well, I'm
last.
glad you're just
Okay.
sharing with us now.
I've
Literally the first I've
go
heard of
back
this.
to the old tapes. Go on to Steno AI, by the way. Look up the transcripts. Look up me saying the word gearbox.
I've never
You'll
ever
hear
heard
something.
you say
You'll
that.
see something in like, oh, he said that in November. We should have listened to him. We should have listened to him. Nick's
Alright.
on it.
If we
Um,
if we 10x ETH from here,
From here?
which I think we easily can. If we do, though, we will be performing these podcasts from outer space because I have now purchased Mars, and you guys are on my civilization.
You can purchase the
All right.
Hamptons.
All right. I like that.
All right, Eric, give us yours though. Like what I mean, because obviously you're basing it off something. So just give me a range.
What I don't really have like a fair value range because like the future is unknown, and like how the cash flows come in will determine how I view the asset. But if I'm able to capture a 10x on the price today, I will gladly realize that.
$18,000.
I'll realize.
Okay.
I will realize that.
I'm 40K.
modest.
Okay.
Modest.
I like it.
40K.
Thank you,
40K.
sir, for
Yeah, one of us has to
You
have a
guys can
fucking
take that
little-
to the bank.
of
Leverage your entire
legal
portfolio.
advice. Okay.
I've thought about this a
Courtesy
medium
of
amount
Armand.
as well. So
40
40K. Yeah.
based on
Based on reading this shit and thinking through it all and, applying my little
all right. I changed my
magic
answer.
sauce.
40K then.
All right. Come on board. So to take it from the macro to the micro, a lot of people are very upset right now. The situation is pretty alarming. There's a lot of misinformation.
Oh, I love this. I don't even know
Around
what you're
Ledger.
transitioning to. Oh, Ledger.
You can't.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Steven, we're recording a podcast.
So we are hanging
have an
out
agenda
live
here.
in
We
front
have
of
an
a camera.
agenda
There is
here.
no agenda. We're
Um,
just having a good time.
So
We have Chianti.
for the three people that don't know, because there's plenty of people that may not. Ledger has released a new product, a new firmware update that is essentially a subscription for $10 a month that allows you to essentially like remove this remove this single point of failure of your seed phrase on one piece of paper and have this backed up. And the controversy is that, and it's backed up to like 3 different sources, and we can talk about the technicalities of how that works. But to really like get to the crux of it, this exposes something that a lot of people didn't know existed or was a possibility before. On the device that you already own, which is the Nano S, one of their best-selling products, one of their best-selling hardware wallets. And this will be possible to add in simply by updating your firmware and opting into a subscription. They also recently raised 100 million, and they've raised hundreds of millions of dollars. They're a huge company, and they're a startup that needs to succeed. And there's a lot of different angles on analyzing how we got here. Everything from this is a VC-backed company that needs to find a new revenue source to we can't trust these guys. They've already exposed like our data a year or so
2020-ish.
ago, 2 years ago. Well, fuck, that's 3 years ago. And so many different ways of looking at this, but there's a lot of misinformation. And what I would like to accomplish in this like little segment of conversation is just getting to the root of the best understanding that you guys have amongst like, this conversation of, we have often talked about the importance of needing to like fully self-custody versus like how that's actually a problem in the first place, and how most people that want to adopt and hold crypto in the first place don't have the aptitude to be able to do that, and how Ledger is actually attempting to create a solution that could be a great solution for a lot of people.
Right.
But for OG crypto holders, this is unacceptable, over the line, and causes and will cause, if not has already caused, most of them to be like I'm done with
Right.
you, and I'm going to Trezor, or I'm going to some other hardware wallet brand that you've never heard of. So I just want to get to a place where we're like clear on what our actions are, because I think that's where the alfalfa is. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
What do you
I
think?
think like as you mentioned, they raise money, and I think as the board of directors of Ledger, they're like, how are we going to onboard the next billion people? And they realize that like giving everyone a
Which is the
24
exact thing we've
we've
said as
talked
well.
about, and they're like, well, how do we do that and make it simpler for them, or at least safer and a better UI for them? And I think that like they've also realized that along the way they can create a nice little subscription business model for the business. So I think it plays hand in hand with like where they want to grow the market and the financial needs of the company. I think we're kind of learning for the first time that there is this social contract between us and the hardware wallet manufacturers that maybe we just didn't know existed before.
I had no idea.
Yeah, that there is possibly a firmware update that you could provide that extracts, whether it's encrypted or not, like your private keys, and that's something that we weren't aware of before. And if it exists with Ledger, it probably exists with others.
No, so that's the thing, right? It exists with all of them.
I think so.
By
And
nature
yeah.
of the device itself requires software.
and we don't mind that they have that service, but I think what I worry about is in 7 years when ETH is $18,000 and they own a significant portion of maybe my net worth.
40,000.
Yeah, 40,000. Sorry.
Yeah.
I misspoke.
Yeah.
If a government, a nation state decides to say, hey, we require this type of regulation, or a bad actor,
Exactly.
implants an employee in the company and can patch in something that gives them a back door, whether they're known or not, like all these like, kind of doomsday scenarios, which have happened when you look at like how intelligence agencies like backdoor AV companies and all sorts of like quote unquote impenetrable devices and companies. It's certainly possible. So I think that's what we worry about. And I don't think we were aware that that's possible. And now we're aware of it. So I think there's a few things you can do is like, do one thing that a new comparison that comes up is like, well, is Coinbase safer now than a Ledger? Like it actually comes up in my mind now. I don't know if it is, but the other thing you can do is just implement a multi-sig, right? Like if one company has some probability of risk, if you can, decrease your probability of risk by implementing a multi-sig for those crypto hardliners.
Wait,
right?
can
Like
you do a multi-sig with like? Doesn't that implicitly mean you are going outside Ledger already?
You are.
Like your
Yeah, you would.
Ledger is just one of the sigs.
yes, but
So
you
it-
might
but-
need two in order to
Yeah.
execute a transaction, which makes it
That
fucked
sounds
up to,
terrible.
like-
But like, assuming you're just one person who wants custody of their
and you're
money,
a crypto hardliner, like you've existed to this point for years, you may want that. I'm kind of on the take that like for the next billion people, this might be like a pretty suitable like service.
It absolutely is a great service for getting more people to utilize this technology. But it is terrible for the ethos of what Bitcoin and crypto is supposed to be.
right.
It's terrible for that. And my question for you guys is, because I have not dug into the technicalities of how this actually works, is, and maybe you don't have an answer, it's okay if you don't, but it's like, if this flaw exists with Ledger, why doesn't it exist with every hardware wallet ever? Like, what's stopping our stored keys from eventually from whatever hardware wallet we use being one firmware update away from a government forcing the hand of a manufacturer or a corporation to say, yeah, I need this information and I need you to give it to me
Yeah.
now.
Can we,
like-
can we,
like-
can we,
like,
can we
what's
just
the
throw
safest-
something out there?
Yeah. Like, go.
Okay. So the main thing is to acknowledge that all four of us sitting around at this table, none of us are actually equipped to like break down the intricacies
technicality.
of what's
No.
happening here and they give you a definitive answer.
No, definitely
And-
not.
And that's kind of, I don't know if like scary is the word, but it like,
No,
I
it
would
is.
I
It
would
is.
consider
It is
consider myself
scary.
to be like a very crypto native person. Like I have a good amount of my net worth on chain. I'm on chain all the time. but even with me, like we talk about crypto about like just eliminating the trusted third party, right? We talk about this fantasy world where we just have complete self-custody of all of our funds. But if you think about it, like there are actually like all of these sort of trusted third party intermediaries in the way of like everything that we do. And like, and the ledger thing is scary because it breaks it down to the hardware level, right? Like,
Right.
so the fact that they push this update through, and they said, well, you could opt into it. But why is it even possible with the existing hardware to push a software patch through where that hardware can port your seed phrase over? Like, I think a lot of people were like, whoa, wait a minute.
First of all,
why was that even possible in the
eventually
first place?
like, okay, one way that like an individual could play it would be like, I'm not going to update my firmware.
I think that's a bad idea.
It's a terrible idea.
Yeah.
How many years are you not going to update your firmware for? You eventually need to update your firmware because your object becomes obsolete by nature.
Yeah, also, those
Like, it just
firmware
stops-
updates provide security patches.
Absolutely. Like
that's-
there are other vulnerabilities that are issued. So you eventually have to update your firmware. And if you've updated your firmware and you're one literally software button away from opting into something that allows that to have some sort of backdoor access. Again, this is where the misinformation starts to kick in. It's not necessarily misinformation. It's just people that are doing their best right now. That is a mix of people that are highly technical to people that are highly technical traders to people that are just like, I have a lot of money in crypto and I need to make sure that I actually have true self-custody because that's the promise of what I signed up for. And everyone is trying to figure out, is that actually the case? And I think that the rude awakening that is occurring right now is that for the first time, people are realizing the hardware wallet, which was supposed to be the safest way to store your keys, is not actually as safe as they thought.
It feels
And
like
that
we're like,
is alarming to
we're
me.
like fast
That is
playing
extremely
all
alarming
of
to me.
finance, right? Like, it feels like the way we got to the modern financial system was we were super decentralized at a particular point in time. We all just kept our own resources, and then people were like robbing us, and we were like fighting them off with sticks and then guns and then just battling. And then we got together and we're like, wait, what if we give these to sort of third parties sanctioned by this collective entity called the government? And then we don't have to worry about this. And we're like, okay, that's good. And now I wonder if we're like going back. It's like, do you guys know the comedian Jim Gaffigan by any
course.
chance?
He always
He has-
whispers in his
He has this
stand-ups.
sketch about like people eating candy bars. And they're like, we need people to have like a healthier option. They're like, we'll make the kids eat this like this. We'll put granola in a thing and we'll sell it to them. And then it comes back. They're like, the kids aren't eating the granola. He's like, well, we'll put little chocolate chips in it. And then it comes back. He's like, boss, the kids still aren't eating the granola. They're like, oh, it's okay. We'll just dip the granola chocolate chips
Frosting.
in chocolate.
Yeah.
And then it comes back. And eventually he like invents like the kudos bar, which is it's just a fucking candy bar. It's the same
Right.
thing. But they've kind of come full circle and given the people exactly what they wanted in the first place and sort of repackaged it as a different thing, but it's still like a candy bar. And I wonder if we're going to get to the same place here where we try to go super decentralized and we're like, wait a minute, this is really fucking hard. And then ultimately we end up back where we go, okay, actually you take all our crypto.
Yeah, and I don't want to get too tinfoily, but I will say, like,
let's get in there.
you know, I've had a chance to
not?
meet with like a former director of the NSA, former commander of Cyber Command, and like it is a practice of them. They like their former employees to cycle into industry, and they certainly like to pull industry people in under their command. Meaning, like they like when their employees rotate into the private sector and then back into the public sector. And if you think, you know, the United States is very okay with that, well, then you got to think that like other governments are very capable of that, especially to like a French company like Ledger. So I'm just saying, like, yeah, there is a social contract. It exists. There are foreign governments who will certainly attempt this.
This is
And, like-
this is terrible. This is terrible for crypto.
But so
The fact that there is a social contract means, to me, I'm sorry, game over. Game over for most. Like,
wait, the
people.
whole thing is over?
It's over.
It's over?
No,
the
no,
whole
no.
thing is over.
It's over. The
Hmm.
whole purpose was that there was no social contract. They were just supposed to be a manufacturer of a physical hardware good that stored
Wait,
your
who is
keys.
they? Ledger?
Ledger or
Wait, so you're saying
Trezor or whatever. They're all the same.
all
They're
of
the same
crypto's
now.
over because
They're
of
all
Ledger?
the same now. Yes, it's not because no, it's not because of Ledger. You know what? It's a fundamental understanding of like, how do I actually create a situation where a third party is not necessary to any degree whatsoever. Look at, just to put the hat on of a hardcore Bitcoiner right now. How triggered is that person to know that there is not truly this idea of self-custody that exists without a third
They
party?
use custody wallets and custody exchanges in order to use their
Of course
product in
they
the
do.
first place. So like,
Of course they do, but what does the real version of this look like? What does
Yeah.
the version of it looks like that doesn't rely on anyone? Like,
well, I think what we should come to terms with is that like this is like shared risk. Like, let's say you use a different method and Ledger has some kind of issue. You don't think that's going to impact your precious asset price? Like if Ledger has an issue and you're on a Trezor, like this is a shared risk, I think.
if Ledger has what kind of issue?
Like some kind of vulnerability where all of a sudden people realize their seed phrases are not as secure as they think they are. And if that becomes public, like well, this is a shared community risk. Like whether or not you're losing the ledger. Like people fear most that another person gets their private keys, right?
Yeah.
And so if that happens in the future, if there is evidence of like it happening multiple times, this is a shared risk of owners of the asset class, whether you like it or not. So anyway, I think we should
I
like
think it's a way bigger deal than we're giving it right now.
maybe, and I think
honestly
people
believe that.
should defer to like the Bankless episode where they talk to the CTO of Ledger. Like
Sure.
if you want the technical version of this, I think
Yeah, if you want the propaganda version.
Wait,
of it.
why do you think
If you want the
why do you think it's
propaganda
a big
version of
deal?
it, go listen to that. But if you want the like what's really going on version, we actually need like a hardcore developer who understands, like a cryptographer / hardcore developer who understands exactly what's happening, who can explain like how keys should be stored in the most authentically self-custodial type of way, and how perhaps this entire time we've been lying to ourselves that we can trust an entity of any kind to provide a physical device, because ultimately it's based in software. Like, yes, there is an offline component to the whole thing, but if you can send a software firmware update to that physical device, then is it truly pure and secure? It's kind of like what came up in the money channel of our Discord today. It was like multiple people were talking about the different ledger models and how I think it's the X that is the one that has the Bluetooth technology, and the S is the one that doesn't. And it's like being able to plug it in versus the ability to use Bluetooth. You're providing more points of accessibility and more points of vulnerability and more points of failure ultimately. And that's scary in a world where things seem to be becoming a little bit more dystopian as time goes on. There's more independence happening. If you're into the Peter Zeihan thing, which Stephen, you are, it's like, it's not good for that narrative, right? Like you want, it's not good for the Balaji narrative. I still believe Balaji's right, by the way.
About
for the record.
what?
I think that
About what?
Balaji is right.
Get
His
specific.
basic thesis
What is his
correct.
basic thesis?
We're printing
That
too
Bitcoin
much.
is going to $1 million
No.
9 days from now?
No, that's just like the propaganda marketing.
Gotta
to get
go.
the
Gotta move
attention.
quick.
I think
Gotta
it's
move quick,
I think it's
Bitcoin.
basic.
So weird
thesis
that we're
is
not
correct.
at $1 million yet.
No,
by
I
the
think
way.
it's I played a role in that episode where I just wanted to help us have a conversation. I think his basic thesis of like what is happening in the world is correct.
You were anti-biology in that episode.
What?
Yeah,
are
you
you
were
talking
like
about?
Bitcoin is not going to $1 million.
well, he was playing the
No, you
moderator
guys
and like
were.
tossing up.
no,
some-
you did not say Bitcoin is going to $1 million.
I don't think Bitcoin is going
I
to
know
$1
you
million.
didn't.
That's
Otherwise,
correct.
I would have dunked on you appropriately.
Okay, hold on. We're getting off track. But the point is, like, I forgot. Fuck it. I forgot.
Eric, I want to hear what
Yeah.
you think about this whole thing. Like, are you worried or not worried? Is my main thing.
Yeah. What's your thought here?
I don't know enough to be worried or not worried. What I do know is that if this is a worry, then it's fucked. And my
That's my take.
suspicion,
It is fucked.
My suspicion is that it's a nothing burger like everything else is. So
Okay.
I've like seen people that I trust, like I see like go through their thought models on what's happening, and they say that this is a nothing burger. So to me, it's a nothing burger. But like if it is as bad as we sort of make it to be. Like if this is really like our seed phrases are
It's not a
are
nothing
fucked,
burger.
Okay.
then
I'll
it's-
put
then
everything
it's
on.
fucked.
It's not a nothing burger. The fact that there is any vulnerability whatsoever on a level that exists with any company means that is intrinsic to the technology of how the seed phrase of how your keys are stored
Would, like,
in the first
I would
place.
counter it with like you don't know what you're talking about, and neither do
Sure,
I.
but
Like,
neither do you.
Exactly.
So
And
then
so
it's a
here we
worthless
are.
conversation.
Okay,
here we
It's
are.
a worthless conversation.
Can I
You're saying
counter-
it's
can
fucked,
I
and I'm saying
counter
it's
your
not,
counter?
You know?
Please.
So I don't know how a ledger works. I will throw that out there. I have no idea how a ledger works, but I do know that if they are pushing a firmware update that you can download and change the way your thing functions, it does mean that the existing hardware had the
all I'm
capability to do
saying.
something before. And
That's all
I don't
I'm
know
saying.
how, I don't have to know how it works,
I
but
mean,
I
let's
can
keep going.
I can use deductive reasoning to say like, oh, this thing had the capability to
you
do
wanna
that
live-
if you
you
just
wanna-
push the software.
You want to
update.
live in a world with fucking auto GPT that can go and do whatever the fuck it
Whoa, whoa,
wants,
whoa,
and
whoa,
you're
whoa,
not
whoa, whoa,
worried
whoa, whoa,
about.
whoa, whoa,
No,
where are you
no, we
going
can
with
go
this?
there. I can go there. I can absolutely go there. You want to live in a world with auto GPT that can do whatever the fuck it wants. It already has access to the internet. We should have never given it access to the internet in the first place. We should have never given it the ability to code in the first place. These are all things that Max Tegmark talked about. And then now here we are. It has the ability to download, upload, access all the fucking information that ever existed. And then how difficult would it be to push a firmware update if you're AI and you just simply want to bankrupt the entire fucking human race that has already moved from the big banks to, self-custody crypto. I mean, there's so many terrifying scenarios of things that could go wrong, and I think we should be taking it extremely seriously.
Oh,
and it's not
wait.
just the fucking Nika whiskey speaking. I'm being honest here.
I actually have.
I think it's
I actually have a
terrifying.
take that I want
think it's
your. I want
mostly
your.
the Nico whiskey talk.
I want your take on my take. My take from this as like assume you're a ledger and you're a founder. My take is to pick a fucking lane. Like Ledger's like, we are the OG hardware wallet, and like people keep $100 million of Bitcoin on our wallet. Also, here's an update that lets you just recover your seed. And was there a backdoor all along? I don't know, but here we
Also,
are.
have you-
Just pick a lane. Be like super
should have
accessible,
left- they
or
should have
just
let-
be OG.
They should have let Robinhood do that. They should have let MetaMask do that. That was not their game.
Yeah, it's weird. Like you can't just be in both
correct.
customers. You like
Correct.
burned your existing customers.
Yeah.
Oh,
There was a spaces
was a
where
tweet.
there was literally a guy in a Twitter Spaces who was like, "Well, Ledger isn't for people who have more than like 50K in their wallet anyway."
No, exactly.
And people were like, "What?"
it
Yeah,
is
like,
the only option
Right, like,
for
what's-
people that have more than
what's-
50K.
what's
Was
the
not the only
alternative?
option.
Yeah,
but-
like what-
but people
like what's the safe
people
one?
have
Then?
it.
So there
Did
you
you guys
go.
see,
and there was all this stuff about how they don't know their customer. They clearly don't know their
They
customer if
don't.
they made this move. That's the biggest thing that I took away from this is like, wow, they are not talking to the real crypto hodler at all whatsoever.
Also, so the 3 shards get shared with Ledger, a company called CoinCover, and then a company that shall not be named.
Huh?
I looked up CoinCover. I was like sitting in bed last night. I was like, well, is all my money gone?
Is that there shall not be named LLC?
No, it's just like some independent third party. And I was like looking at the CoinCover website and I was like, I'm like doom scrolling in bed. Like this does not
love doom
inspire
scrolling.
confidence. It's I don't know. And then like some third party like company that doesn't, I don't know. So you need 2 out of 3 in order to get your hold on it. And like, yeah, it's
Well, that seems legit. Nothing to see here, folks. Just keep your net worth on a ledger, and you'll sleep fine. at
Yeah,
night.
like we said, always use a hardware wallet.
yeah, thank God our ENS names are covered by multi-sig boys. Thank God alfalfapod.eth.
Yeah, nothing can go wrong there.
Can I just say how much I love our community? I'm just like catching up on
Are
these
you-
messages
are
right
you
now.
Can we
just
read
lolling
some,
in
can
the
we read
chat?
some messages from
If
the
these guys were
community?
here in
Yeah,
person, we'd be
Basil-
having a grand old
Yeah,
time.
Basil says, I've been watching Armand wave his hand at Eric to switch the cams. LMFAO.
Yeah, that's
Poor Eric.
That's
Yeah.
a my bad. That's a my bad. We've been drinking since
Chad-
10:30 a.m.
Chad keeps
so-
observing that I have to pee very badly, which is absolutely correct.
Do you want to
Ledger-
take a break before we get into the
Can
live
I?
episode?
Can I?
No,
Can
no,
I
no
go to the?
break.
Please, Armand, can I go to the
Joshua
bathroom?
Campton says,
work
I'm
under
so
these-
blazed. I actually wish I
I
was
can't
blazed,
work under
Josh.
these conditions.
That sounds
I wish I
great.
was
That
blazed.
sounds
I
fucking
would
he
love
awesome.
also
to
mentions that the
light-
third wallet is FTX Wallet LLC.
Wait,
don't
can
be
we
worried.
Can we light a joint in here?
Yeah, of course.
That
Oh
sounds
my
fucking
God, are you
wonderful.
I'm going to the
serious?
bathroom. I didn't hear anything. I was just
If anyone did not pick up on this already, Nick is the landlord.
and it's legal in California, so my insurance policy
Do you
allows
know
it.
how I haven't smoked a joint since before I had a baby?
Oh,
Hey Basil, switch the cams for me. Just FYI.
We're gonna get. We need a little. Steven, I have peed twice at least already. I feel for you, man. Oh my God.
by the way,
This
can
is so
the
good.
chat hear the airplanes? By the way, because like we
I
live.
don't think so.
We live pretty close to like a flight
underneath.
line,
Yeah, right underneath.
and
Max,
I left the moonroof open in the room, and I'm wondering if anyone can hear it.
I love Max. He's been on fire.
Oh, you guys can't-
Ledger, you had one job.
One job, just be a hardware wallet.
You literally
Yeah.
you
had
fucking
one
hardware wallet.
job.
Just do that. You
Like,
moron.
would you have preferred that we just had like pure ignorance, like this? I'm so safe in this.
You know,
head of-
it's like, you know, what's funny is that we sat here talking about it for 14 minutes, and it's like none of us have any
Oh,
fucking idea.
Pat, here's the
what we're doing.
planes. Fuck.
All right, I'm gonna fix it. Can I fix it while we take
How
our
do you
little break?
fix it?
I got away.
No. I don't want to
You-
stop.
Well, Steven's already in the bathroom.
No, that's
yeah, and I gotta
fine.
go to the bathroom.
Wait, I thought we're not doing the stop thing.
That's absurd.
No, we're not doing the stop thing.
It's absurd of
I'm
you
not
to
stopping.
suggest.
I can't stop.
Okay, well, you
I
keep the
can't stop,
you keep
won't
the
stop.
pod going.
No.
All right, I'm gonna fix the planes,
One-
and
I'm gonna
Eric's gonna go to the bathroom,
How do
and I
you
want to refill my drink.
How do you fix the plane?
You'll see.
You get
Okay.
any 3 mil zins? That's
Do
how
I got
just-
6
do I just-
milligrams in,
Yeah,
and this is a
gross.
perfect opportunity since Eric isn't flipping the camera my
Okay,
way.
so are we going into some of the life topics then?
Yeah, so next we're going to talk about Karen AI.
Karen
She
AI.
made about 71 grand in her first week of having a chat AI. So we're going to talk about that next. Let's take a quick 5-minute break. We'll be back, refill the glasses, get a drink,
Fine.
come back. Also, like the episode if you're having fun so
Fine.
far.
Josh Scampton is telling me to put the foot down.
No break.
Guys, this is absurd. They can't hold it? Like, what's going on here? Daddy Armand. It's so hot. I'm totally in for Daddy Armand. Wow, I'm still here. This is happening. Hi, Steven.
just walk back
Wait, come
into
sit
the
here.
room.
Come sit here.
You're just
Come
sitting
sit
by
here. So
yourself.
that's because I can't switch the cameras.
You want me to temporarily change seats?
Yeah.
I have to hold my microphone. Oh my god.
Yeah, like a peasant. I know. I don't know how Eric does it. There you go. Hey, bud.
We should really invest in
Hey,
a
honestly though,
microphone.
Ledger is fucking up. They're fucking up big time.
Yeah.
It's so hot.
I think they are 70% fucking up, 30% fine.
No, they're not.
I know, hot
No.
take.
No. No, I really think this is like a huge existential threat. I have this like
An existential
sick
threat?
feeling. I have this sick feeling that we got the whole thing wrong.
No, you're being dramatic.
No, I like.
you
I
are
mean,
being
Someone has to be dramatic.
so dramatic right
Someone
now.
has to be.
Everything's gonna be fine.
Why though?
We're
if
iterating.
the vulnerability exists to any degree whatsoever, then the whole goddamn thing is
No, it's
Done.
not, because the beauty of crypto is that there's just like zero, like you can transfer all of your money by like you just have like 20 words and you just transfer all your money, gone. And it's gone. And the person who offered the inferior product now has no funds in their product. Nobody wants to buy their product. It's beautiful. It's a free market where people provide products, and there's no ability to have some sort of regulatory capture to stick people into your shitty product where they're like, well, you could move your funds, but there's this like 98-day waiting period, and you gotta like download this other thing, and then you gotta file that, you gotta fax in this paper to move your funds. That doesn't exist. You just whoop, and you're
so
gone.
let me understand something. These keys that are stored on this fucking hardware. What's stopping it from being like? How does? Yeah, you're not technical enough to answer this. Like, how does this? Like,
I don't
what
know.
are the
Ask the
alternatives?
question? I'll tell you if I can.
What are the alternatives? Like, where else? How else that is still offline? Is there any way to store keys offline without interaction to any degree, like with software?
Look,
That's a very. I'm sorry. I think that's what I would ask, like an expert right now. That would be the exact question. It'd be like, just start the conversation there. Like, how does that work? Like, is there any way?
There are ways to do social recovery. Like we've talked about account
That
abstraction.
that's
Are
true.
you
but
familiar with
that's-
account abstraction? Like
yes, but that's a different realm. That's not the same thing.
The
is
problem with Ledger isn't that they're using a way of private key recovery that people didn't opt into. The problem is they're just porting it on top of an existing sort of infrastructure that people thought was hard and set fat. It couldn't be modified, and they're like, well, actually it turns out that we can just push a software update through, and this thing that you thought was this like fortress of solitude that you could just hide behind, well, actually we had these repairmen that just go in and change your doorbell, and then we just ring your doorbell, and then your house is gone.
That's literally that's all
that
I'm saying,
may have been a weird
dude. That's what I'm saying.
analogy, but no, but like
That's what I'm saying.
the problem isn't that these things exist. The problem is that like people opt into a company, they opt into a piece of hardware, thinking that they're going into the sort of they're on the bunker squad. They're the team that like builds a bunker in their backyard.
What's the argument for Coinbase here?
Well, the argument for Coinbase
Centralized exchange in general versus hardware wallet. Like you ultimately are still like you're the
problem
the
with
problem isn't it worse?
No.
Because
The problem
you're
with
trusting
Ledger,
a centralized exchange that is way more in bed with the government versus like a company like Ledger or Trezor.
If Ledger did this and they shipped a completely new hardware device and they said your old hardware device can't opt into this because of the hardware, we're like, there's no way we could just push some firmware update that lets your hardware do this.
Mm-hmm.
But here's a new device. People would be like, oh, that's cool. I can buy the I have no fucking idea what I'm doing device and I need my handheld, or I can have my device that's like this brick wall. And instead they were like, oh, hey, you know that device you've been using for like 7 years? Here's a software update. Well, you don't have to opt into it, but if you just click this green check mark box, then we just get your seed for it. People were like, whoa, wait. That was possible. That's kind of weird. That's where they went wrong. Like they had to like pick a lane.
All right, you got to give Eric.
I think
your
is
mic.
what I was saying.
Got to give Eric your mic.
Do you want your mic back here?
I'm gonna go do what you guys did.
Well, Steven's not going to be fine.
Take a biological break.
Wait, you've had to do this the whole time?
Oh, I've been here. I've been with the people.
Okay.
I'm not here by
holding that
choice.
before.
Armand told me to sit here.
Yeah.
But if you need a break, Eric, I'm
And
happy to do
what
some
I would
video
like
angle changing.
Is I'd like you to start the conversation about Karen. And when I re-enter the room, I want it to be at like peak sexuality.
Is that because you're
That's
blazed?
that's like where I thrive. And I would like it to be there when I re-enter.
Let the
room.
record show that Armand thrives at peak sexuality. Wow. So on that note, we're trying to do this thing now where we don't have a break between the segments.
First of all,
I
that's
guess eventually we're gonna go into we're just doing one thing.
That's fine, but like to not do a break is sort of absurd broadly. Like it's 4 hours.
I agree as well. Like there were individuals in the chat who were commenting about how badly I had to pee, and that made me realize that I did indeed
Have to pee.
have to pee.
Yeah, we all know. Like you have taken breaks when we're doing 1 hour podcast.
Yeah. I feel like my bladder is usually pretty good, but then it just reaches a capacity point, man. It's
They gave me
messed up.
you gave me a 6 milligram Zyn pouch.
Yeah.
Like
I want the chat to follow.
I'm already hiccuping.
I want to see if Eric has to spit into his cup here.
I'm hiccuping. Does everyone get hiccups?
That's from the alcohol.
No, that's from the Zyn pouch.
Mm.
I'm taking a break.
Yeah. Wait, I forgot. What are we talking about for the life segment?
We're going to talk about Karen AI.
Oh, we get a lot. We get Bard. We get
You got to grind my
remember.
gears segment, don't you?
Oh wow, there's a bunch of stuff in here. I'm glad we have these notes actually because I have 0 short-term or midterm.
I think the
whole
chat
town
might be
memory now.
surprised to hear that
Yeah, the whole time
we have notes.
I don't think they'd be surprised at all.
The whole town knows you have no memory. Let's I don't know. Fuck, I can't stop hiccuping.
That bad, huh? How do you know it's Zen?
Because when I put it in, I start hiccuping.
Oh man, I think. Thanks, Bandit, for the comment. We were going to be pretty insecure if we put up these little pads and no one commented.
No,
on it.
I need some positive reinforcement from Bandit right now. What do you say?
He just said, "Nice setting."
Nice panels?
No,
Oh.
no, just
No,
nice
but
setting.
he's talking about the panels. I know he is. I know Bandit. I know Bandit like the back of my hand.
All right. Well, let's transition into the next segment. We're going to do a hard left turn from talking about the intricacies of ETH tokenomics. We were just at a baseball game, and you,
Yes,
Eric,
yes,
informed me that the MLB was considering getting rid of umpires and just having a computer call balls and strikes to absolute digital perfection. And I wasn't sure how I felt about this, actually. And you seem to have some opinions. So I want to kick that over to you. How do you feel about having baseball governed by a computer, and what are the broader implications for society?
So I know we have some baseball fans in our audience. D Koch.
It's peak sexuality.
No.
Yeah,
fuck
we went the
you.
opposite
Ah,
direction.
fuck
Deal
you.
with it.
So D Koch, I know, is a Detroit Tigers fan. I know we have some other baseball fans in our audience. Like what I know for a fact is that baseball is changing their rules to suit fans, right? So they've already done a couple rule changes. One is implementing a pitch clock, which you guys were the beneficiaries of today. Like the game went faster today,
That game
right?
was long, and it would have been longer.
By
It
the
was 2.5
way,
hours.
I enjoyed the pitch clock. It was noticeably faster.
Yeah, like the game went fast. Like we all recognized, I was like, oh shit, we're in the third or fourth inning. As we said it, we're like, this game is going by fast. That's a positive change. I would assume you guys all agree. Okay, so the next change that they're looking at implementing is the robo umpire, which I believe to be like an immense positive. This is going to be revolutionary in that, like we all sort of like the human element of gamesmanship, and that exists between the players, the pitcher and the hitter. We don't want the human element to come in with like a third party. Like, let's just play the game as it's intended. A strike is a strike and a ball's a ball. Let's let the players play.
Wait, can I ask you a more difficult example? How would you feel if the NBA playoffs and all of the fouls were governed by a computer?
I mean, like many of them are, because there is the ability to challenge calls now.
Some of them, yes, but
And like within 2 minutes, they can go to the instant replay to see if a ball was out of bounds off of one team or another. So like they're already implementing that, and I think that improves the game. That improves like the product itself. Whether that improves like your watchability is open to interpretation, because like maybe you don't like that they took an extra 45 seconds to look at the call.
Baseball's great. It is America's pastime. It is a sport that I hope never loses its sort of like connection to the American culture. I think it's a beautiful thing. And yet, at the same time, compared to other sports, like pickleball, sport, air quotes, has way more attention. I couldn't believe it this weekend. I'm not even going to troll. I couldn't believe it this weekend. Pickleball was on ESPN. I was blown away. I couldn't believe it. It was ESPN 1 or 2. And it was like a whole match. And it was probably people that you know very well.
I mean, I can believe that. Like,
I
if you were like,
cannot
pickleball is
believe that.
ESPN, I'd be like,
that's ridiculous.
yeah.
No, that's
no, hold on.
ridiculous.
You were like the guy who was
That's
like,
crazy.
in 1971, you were like, there was a boxing match on the
Yeah.
television. Can
I'm
you believe
I'm
that?
I'm on Steven's tip on this, where it's
When
like,
did you?
so I don't care about pickleball. Like, this is a sports network, and mostly what they show is talking. Like, let's show some sports. Like,
Oh, from that regard, like
Yeah,
that
like,
there was something live
show
and they could have showed
sports.
it. But dude,
Yeah.
there's some really exciting sports out there at a college level, at a high school level.
but not happening at like 1 p.m. on a Thursday.
No, there's always stuff happening.
No.
And
The
they
Ocho,
chose to
on the
show-
Ocho.
They chose to show pickleball on premier Pico level, like
I'll give pickleball some
ESPN.
credit, because pickleball, particularly the singles, is an athletic feat. Singles is athletic.
Okay, how do I long
singles
pickleball? How do I make money off
singles
pickleball?
pickle is extremely hard.
Max wants
That
to know.
part.
I want to know. How do I make money
Buy-
off pickleball?
Buy any sort of like e-com company, domain names related. I feel like the best passive play is like domain names.
So
related to
our
pickleball.
mutual friend Justin tried to bid 1.2 million on pickleball.com. Lost.
Lost
Honestly,
a bit.
I mean,
What about .eth?
if Justin got pickleball.com for 1.2 million, I would have said that's like the biggest joke of a steal of all
Right.
time. Like,
yeah,
that's like,
I would too.
like you get like what is
What I
basically
think
going
a
to be
better-
like a multi-billion-dollar industry domain name for $1 million.
How about
That'd
like
be a
passive
joke.
play is like turning worthless commercial real estate that we're all finding to be worthless into maybe like
would it hurt you if I
I
productive-
like
said
this
tennis
play.
courts? Would it hurt you?
No, I'm
Are
only
you saying to take like an 11th floor empty unit?
Yes,
And
yes.
yeah, I think that'd
I'm
be sick.
saying like
this
I think
fits
that'd
in
be
with the,
sick.
the
we need to
current paradigm,
turn
yeah.
unproductive real estate into productive. So like whether that like
because it's not coming back.
because like if people aren't going back to the office, we need
it's
to turn
gonna
that back
be
into
70%
something.
max
So
of what it was.
like you turn that either into housing, which is difficult because I've talked to like commercial real estate guys who say like, okay, so we'll convert this, but it's fucking hard and it's expensive and like maybe the economics don't exist. But if all you need to do is just like lay down a flat floor and like put some nets up that are fucking free, essentially, like that makes sense to me. And
Yeah.
I think you turn unproductive real estate into productive, and that's a great idea.
yeah, I think it's a great idea.
Yeah. Like,
All right.
and you could never do this with tennis, right? Like, you
No.
couldn't just be like,
Well,
oh,
there's-
we're going to put a
No,
tennis court in the middle of this Bed Bath
No,
and Beyond.
because with tennis you can well with pickle you can hit lob shots too.
Yeah, you need it too. But like,
But-
there's an element of the pickleball people who are like, oh, yeah, you just throw some lines on the floor and roll a net in and we're good to go.
I think with tennis,
Yeah.
like the demand is not there necessarily. Like pickleball has
yeah, like
all
the,
the
the
demand.
tennis people aren't
Right.
like itching to go into a abandoned Bed Bath and Beyond and play a game.
I mean,
But
I
pickleball
I,
probably
to- I
people
told you
do that.
guys, I told you guys, right? Like when I went to the place that Steven and I play, and I got smoked by two 65-year-old women. Like they smoked me,
Okay, so this like I don't want to go down this other path of like talking
and they
about.
laughed at me.
Remember
they
the-
laughed.
you remember the
That was the
conversation-
part that hurt the most. They were like,
Remember the conversation about the guy who
You
said
noob.
like I
"New
want
boy."
my sports to include a physical element, like, and he got so much backlash. You know, he said
yeah.
it in a harsher way. He was
Yeah.
like, he said like I don't want
I mean,
my
the guy was right, but
but I agree with him. Like I
Look,
prefer,
first of all, those are big words for a man who can't even win a sprint.
Whoa.
hey now
can't win a sprint. Who didn't participate?
throws 40 miles an hour.
Who provided the entertainment?
You
good
don't want to
sir?
sprint against me. I have a bad foot. I'm basically, I could get a handicap.
Can we
Sounds
comment on your
license plate,
shoes?
by
Because the
way.
chat is very obsessed with your
The chat
shoes.
does not like
Sounds like an
my
easy win to me.
orthopedic Hoka 1-1s, but you can go fuck yourself.
I mean,
Chad.
so I've seen elderly caddies wear Hokas. I've seen big walkers wear Hokas. I've never seen a podcaster wear Hokas.
Look,
I don't even know what a Hoka is.
I totally
It's
agree
not
with
in
you.
my realm of.
This is my
fashion
point.
possibility.
Like, if Armand loses a sprint to a man who wears orthopedic shoes, like this is a no-win situation for
Well,
him.
first of all, Armand would
So
not
I
lose
would-
a
I would-
sprint to a Hoka shoe.
I
I
lost
would-
to a
I would
five-time
caution
state
him
champion,
against this.
Yeah, come on now.
and
Sure.
honestly, I lost
Of course you did.
hard. That was very humble.
Ugh.
Shout
Anyway,
out to you, Neve,
yeah.
again.
Before
That
we get
was-
into the main topic for today, I have a gripe that I want to bring up to people. And it came to me again. Like we were at the baseball stadium and I ordered a
hot dog,
Mexican hot
Hot
dog.
dog.
hot dog.
We're like, would you like your hot dog wrapped in bacon? I was like, of course I would. What kind of person am I? They're like, would you like your hot dog covered in cilantro and onion and salsa and mayonnaise? I was like, yes, all of the above.
Oh,
Give
you
me
all
one.
of
don't,
the
you
above.
don't have the genetic mutation against cilantro?
No, I don't have that.
Okay.
I don't have that.
Okay.
Thank God.
I know some people that would like vomit if
I
they
do-
just hear the word
I do as
cilantro.
well.
Poor
They shall
bastards.
remain nameless,
Yeah,
but they
it's
know
good
who they
stuff.
are if they're listening to this podcast. Anyway, this guy, he rings me up, $19 for this hot dog after tax. I'm like, okay,
There's a $19 hot dog.
$19 hot dog.
No, really?
Turns around, grabs the pre-made hot dog off the rack in a box, hands it to me, and is like, there you go. If you'd like to, there's a little option to add a little extra there, and just like,
Oh my
would you like
God.
to add 20% tips.
Steven, how much you tip him?
I tipped him 20% because I succumbed. He was like looking at me like,
It's peer pressure.
Wait. Is this a segue?
yes.
Yes.
The fact that you don't know it's a segue means it was an unbelievable
I
segue.
got it. Okay, that's how it
But-
feels, by the way.
I was just like, God, like this guy turned around, grabbed a pre-made hot dog off the rack, handed it
Yeah.
to me, looked at me like, was like, would you like to, just if you're comfortable with it, whatever, don't worry about it. And it's just like,
So he eyeball pressured you.
yeah, and it just like the amount is like 20 or like add custom. Like, what am I gonna do? Click the button and then just like type in the cut.
Yeah.
You're just like, God damn it, and you just walk away. But I was thinking like, there was a time where I would go to a 3-hour dinner, and the waiter comes up. He talks to you. He gets to know you. He makes recommendations. Things happen. He brings food. He's like, oh, preemptively, like, that food's not right. He goes back, makes it right. Like, and you give him 20%.
That's a good
And
tip.
this man turned around and handed me a Mexican hot dog that was pre-made. He made none of it himself. He didn't like it. And like, I'm expected to be 20. And this has happened throughout my life. I get a coffee. They turn around. They fill up a pre-made drip coffee. Hand it to me. They turn the little swivel thing around.
Yeah.
This is the problem, by the way. The swivel iPad. Would you like to tip third? I have so many grinds my gears things here. I
heard
have to
this.
stop. But
they
the
like-
worst thing for me is like when they're like, the base one is like 25. They're like 25 or custom. I just go like, no, you get 0. Fuck you. You think I'm gonna like take the time to
So are
get
you
the custom amount?
Are you the 0 guy? Because I don't have. The
If you
balls
set your
sometimes.
baseline amount at like 25 and custom, thinking like I'm gonna be like,
Oh, that one.
I don't want to take the time to enter the custom. I just go 0. But when they
Yeah.
go like 15, 20, 25, I go,
I think those
Interesting.
casual encounters, like, I think there's a pretty good rule to use, which is like, if you use them often, if it's the coffee shop you go to like a few times a week, if it's the place that you frequent, like, yeah, tip your barista, tip your like person that's part of your
I couldn't
like
agree
weekly
more
life.
with you. And I don't like cash, but in this situation, I'm a huge cash fan. So I never carry cash, but I try to remind myself. So first of all, I get $2 bills from Chase.
What?
Yes.
Why?
Because they're fun to give to people. They're very fun.
This
to
is
give to people.
Persian.
this.
This is a Persian thing.
This I don't know if it's Persian.
This is so old man
this
Armand. Like, he's gonna
is
just
like-
hand $2
I
bills to like
love
children.
giving
And
$2 bills to people.
It's
It
Persian.
makes their day.
It's Persian.
It's cash in their hand and they love it. And then they get to pay it forward. So it's like they get to make someone else's day. There's something about the $2 bill that is like makes someone's day.
Yeah.
So what I like to do is keep 2s on me and give cash to the baristas and the donut person and the whatever, kind of like person that's doing especially like car wash. Like car wash is like, oh, thanks for, stroking my wheels, real quick for 5 seconds. It's like, here's a couple 2s. I think is much better than just like pushing a 18% button on a pad. So whenever possible, I try to carry cash. I'm actually in the market for a money clip. Yeah, I'm in the market. I'm researching, I'm reviewing, I'm seeing which one I like.
Yeah,
God,
they're
do you
all
guys-
the same, dude.
do you guys remember that
It's a
Louis
statement.
C.K. skit where he like is like a cowboy walking in the bar?
Oh my
Yeah.
And he goes up to the bartender. He's like, I need food for my horse, a room, a beer, a woman.
love it.
And he just takes a coin and goes, ting, and just flips some like ambiguous amount of coin his way as if like that would cover it all. And it's like, I wish we could go back to those days where you just flip some ambiguous amount of like cash his way, like that should cover it. And you get all those things. It'd be so nice.
It was better. He's like, I need food for my horse, a beer for myself, a drink for my woman, a room for 3 nights.
Ting, bing.
No, but it really was that.
All right, can we talk about who's making some real coin now?
Yeah.
Wait, who's
man.
making some real coin?
This
Was that your
girl's
attempt at a
making
segue?
some
It
real
was.
coins.
Segue.
This,
I didn't
this
get
girl,
into you on the record with tipping, but that's fine. That's
So-
fine. We'll have
God,
we'll
we
have the-
really skipped right over
we'll
that
have the-
tipping
we'll
thing.
just I don't approve of this segue. Let the record show. but,
Yeah,
we're gonna-
I got more to
God.
say about the
I
tipping.
I feel like Eric didn't even get to rant
You want to
about
come on?
the-
Let it rip.
Well,
I didn't either.
is there
I'm
a
still on the
principle
tipping.
where
Segue rescinded. More tipping.
segue rescinded, block, veto,
That's what happens when you make a bad
veto
segue.
the segue. I'll
Sorry,
veto,
bud.
I'll veto that immediately. Okay, so here's the thing: 20% tip is industry standard, but for what? Okay, for what? That's like for effort put forth. Like that's for like you said, like a night's worth of like you treating me to service. What if the service is you give me an overpriced hot dog from the back? Like that's not 20% worthy. That's a nothing worthy.
You go no
frankly.
tip. You go no tip in that
That's a
scenario.
no tip. I think like somebody cracks a Bud Light bottle to me. They reached into the refrigerator, cracked a Bud Light, and give it across the table. That to me is worth $1 max, regardless of the price.
No,
of
no,
the
no.
Bud Light.
Bartenders always get 20% minimum.
No,
always.
falsification. That's like $1 per
I-
drink.
Wait.
No,
That's
wait.
super controversial.
Wait,
Nick.
no,
What?
I'm curious.
That's super controversial.
You tip the same on a bartender twisting a Bud Light cap off?
Do you know-
Do you know what
an
the
over-
you know what the
old-fashioned from
dollar per
scratch?
hour like on that
Are you
is?
kidding me? I intentionally overtipped the bartenders.
Yeah.
Wait,
They
but
make
you
the
tip-
most
okay.
money.
You tip the same on a bartender handing you a Bud Light versus making you an old fashioned.
Yeah, because I might be back. And like, you know,
That's ridiculous.
I'm building rapport.
That's ridiculous.
Here's the thing.
Boo
Here's
this-
where I'm
boo
with,
this man.
Here's where
I
I'm
agree
with Nick.
Over tipping, but tipping the same amount it doesn't make it just logically inconsistent.
Bingo.
Here's where I'm with Nick. With tipping in general, if you're generally in a place where you have the opportunity to, and I'm not just saying this to say it, I honestly mean this. If you're in a place where you have the opportunity to tip somebody who most of their income obviously comes from tips, there's a difference, right? There's certain establishments that you might enter where the little pad is being turned to you, and you know that it's like you could be at like a florist shop these days, and they'll turn the pad to you, and you just bought some flowers, and it'll ask you like, do you want a tip? I think that's entirely different. But if you're in a place where you know that the majority of this person's income is from tips and that they're earning close to minimum wage, if not minimum wage, I like to tip a lot. And I think you're all saying the same thing. I'm not saying you're not saying that.
Totally agree with that.
I completely
agree.
am in a place where I'm like, this is my opportunity to give back. I think this is exciting. It's a good opportunity. And then they remember you, they give you great service, and all those things are true. However, at the same time, I could not agree more that it doesn't make sense to give the guy at Cowboy Star 20% who deserves it, 25%, versus the person who just did nothing more than open the Bud Light.
Yeah, but also the average order value.
Actual
Yeah,
like
the average order
really
value.
good. But like I get it. The AOV is higher. I get it. And there's
So
something.
doesn't that work out? Like, doesn't it actually kind of like
I don't
make
think
sense?
so, because it's like
Doesn't always
you
make
could be
sense?
you can be overcharged for the hot dog, and then that AOV is
True.
stupidly
So-
high, and then
True.
you
Pat-
shouldn't be tipping high on that AOV.
Pat brings up a good
True.
point. Like the people who are really benefiting from this are the employers, because like at the end of the day, you sit down with your employer, like, well, yes, I paid you this much, but you also earn this much in
Yes.
tips. So here's your effective salary. Like they
how
actually
does it
benefit from
work?
this.
Like, how does do all the digital tips go into a pool and get shared by all the people that were working that day?
proof of tips.
Yeah, I mean,
Dude,
like
No, it's
I would-
it's
I
different
would
for
like to
every
know how
it's
that
different for
works.
every business and every job. So like I've worked service, so like what happens at the bar typically is the bar team gets tipped out on bar tips,
Yeah.
and then the restaurant team gets tipped out on restaurant tips, and the bar guys get paid way more at the end of the night than the restaurant team,
Right.
despite having done way less work typically.
Yeah, and not having to smile and kiss ass as much.
Right, like not having to do much service. Like,
Right.
you pop a bottle here.
But is that correct? Like, it all gets pulled together, the digital and the physical, and then it
Yeah.
just gets spread out?
you know, loves it the best.
Okay.
And I have a payment processing company. Is the payment processing company.
So
Like
there's
you just
Oh,
get
I
a little
have
more
payment
rev
processing company.
that like just takes a little
Can we
rip
hear
off those
about this
tips.
payment processing company from time to time?
No,
Can I
Okay.
can I give it like
Oh,
a
you did.
I
just
mean
tell
maybe,
us
maybe
about
at
it.
some point.
can I give
You
like
did
a
just tell us about
a take that I agree with? Okay, so Danny Meyer, he's like a restaurateur. He wrote an awesome book. I can't remember the name. It's called Setting the Table. This book I loved. Okay, there's alpha in this book. We don't have to get into it right now, but like he, as a restaurateur of like several Michelin star restaurants, he's like, I don't want my patrons to be in control of my employees' wages. He's like, I want to be in control of those. So
So what is it? He'd
so on the
rather set
menu
wage
on the
himself?
menu he says, don't
Don't
tip I pay my employees
Where
a,
is that,
a
you
living
said?
wage. They're mostly in New York, but it's like Gramercy Tavern.
That's
It's like
so rare.
it's very rare.
So
but he's
rare
like
in
breaking the
America.
mold on that one. But he's breaking the mold in a lot of ways in which like restaurants exist, and that's why
Yeah.
he's like so good at what he does.
The thing about being in New York in general and being in the US is like when the Europeans show up, the
Oh.
American wait staff can't
Yeah,
stand it
so like
because it's like these people don't tip because
so
they
in
just
Austin,
they're not used
Austin,
to it.
Texas holds a Formula One race every
Perfect
year.
example.
And Formula One is very much a European sport. So you're flooded with like 100,000 plus Europeans. And you would think they would love it. The city's busy, packed, bars, restaurants packed. They hate
Nope, they hate
it because the
They're
paisans
working longer.
they don't tip.
They don't tip.
Yep.
The best they're getting is 10%.
I will say, as a consumer traveling to Japan, it was nice to know that just like you don't tip, and
it's like a more like clear sound experience to just know like this is the price. Like,
But if
that's
I was
it.
at
It
that New
makes
York
sense.
restaurant, there would just be this like anxiousness feeling that like he says
Yes.
don't tip, but like you probably should.
So I asked for sex like 30 minutes ago, and we still haven't gotten there. So there's this chick.
Okay.
Can we just please
Segue
talk about
accepted.
her? Can we
Sustained.
talk about
Yeah,
Karen?
sustained.
Can we talk about Karen? Karen's my girl. So
God,
Karen
I was getting
is
into
a
that, but
Snapchat
okay.
influencer, and she's not an OnlyFans girl. She's a Snapchat influencer, and what she did was ingenious. She got the help she needed.
Is ingenious a real word?
Have you changed the channel at all since you
Did you just ask me if ingenious is a real
Yeah, look, it's right
word?
there.
Well, I know that's just because it's just so happens to be.
Eric
Let-
is judging
Chat.
your.
Chad,
Let
if
the
you
record
could let
state-
Eric know that I have been switching the camera
Okay.
angles.
Thank you. Yeah,
masterfully,
chat, let us
I would
know.
Let the
appreciate
record
that.
state Stephen questioned ingenious.
Let us know.
Is that a word like irregardless?
No, it's a real word.
What's the
Continue.
difference between genius and ingenious?
Clever. Ingenious is more like clever.
So
Genius
it's
is
genius,
its
but
own-
even more so.
No, not the same. Different. It's like
Ingenuity and genius.
Exactly. Thank you, Nick. Let's move on.
Okay.
So
Nicely done.
Good
she
segue.
decide she either she has a great team or she on her own. I would love to have her on, Karen. Wonderful, beautiful human being. I'd love to have you on. She decided to create a chatbot of herself and all of her content loaded up to, it appears to just be a sort of like GPT-4 rendition of her. So like similar to like if you were to go and interact with like if you guys have seen like the Huberman bots or any of these, or Steno is coming out with our own chat bot where you can interact with like these various
Specific episodes or
podcasters or specific episodes and come talk to the Alfalfa podcast. Like you're going to be able to do that soon. And in the same way, you can do that with Karen. And Karen is someone who has uploaded her content and herself to the point where her fans can go and interact with her. And not only was it successful, but it was successful to the point where she took her entire following and let them know that this was available, and actually is at the point where right now on this episode, right now, live, I just went to her website and I opted in, and she's got some good marketers behind her because you know what, Nick? You know what it says? I think I talked to you about this. Maybe I didn't. It says 96-hour wait time to get approval to the Telegram group.
Scarcity.
So she's got some funnel workers behind her. And if you don't know what a funnel is essentially this idea of like taking people cold that have never heard of you and funneling them into the point where they become raving fans. And there's a step-by-step process where you engage them and you warm them up and you build trust with them. And the fact that it says like there's a waiting period for her Telegram group is obviously a complete farce.
Right.
It is made up. There's no waiting period. It's just to create a sense of scarcity for her and what she has to offer. Because what is she offering? Nothing. She's offering an AI version of herself, and she clocked in $71,000 in 1 week. And in the, I believe it might have been the Wall Street Journal, might have been the New Yorker, said that she thinks that she can pull in $5 million per month,
Right.
within a few months.
It's
So,
fascinating, man.
like, What
Like,
is happening?
So if let's say you're an incel type of her following, you follow her, you're enamored by her, and you DM her. She says she gets anywhere from like hundreds of direct messages to tens of thousands of direct messages, depending on what she posts. Not, like 99% of those people are not getting a response. So for $1 a minute,
They're
you
getting a response.
are you're not only getting a response, you're getting a one-on-one message. And so
Is Karen AI that different from real Karen?
well, it was trained with 2,000 hours of her YouTube videos. So it is trained on a pretty good set. It uses GPT-4. So it's a interface that we're used to. My question is like, most of these guys probably just want to like text dirty things to her and have her text dirty things back, right?
For sure.
So is GPT-4's like limits reached when talking about certain
Have
topics?
you done any
I don't
deep
think-
research on this, Armand?
No, I have not done deep research on this, but I don't think that GPT-4's limits are sort of like a part of the equation when it comes to Karen.
When just using the API.
Correct.
Yeah, like I'm
Because,
going to
like,
introduce my own training
I'm
data.
giving you the content
Mm.
ultimately. So I'm completely just pulling this out of my ass. But if your question is like, if I were to ask Karen, like, do you like butt sex? And she were to say,
She's heard
like,
worst.
so what would ChatGPT
I'm a
say?
large language model and
Chat-
cannot comment on butt sex.
Thank you. But what would Karen say? What would Karen say? Karen would say, I'm glad you like that. Karen would say,
exactly what it would say.
well, it depends on the size of your
He can't
penis.
control himself.
No, seriously, what would Karen say? Karen would say it depends on the size of your penis.
So did she say that back?
And then the guy would say, well, like, I mean, here's my dick, here's my dick pic, and have a conversation.
But like they can have
and
that.
pay for it. And it would be exhilarating.
But the price? So
exhilarating.
So she's charging $1 a minute, which
Correct.
to me sounds exorbitant. Like it sounds like old school.
How much
sex
does
phone.
how much does the cam stuff cost?
I don't know. Like I think the way the cam
Oh,
stuff
you
works
know,
is like
pal.
you buy tokens and then you use those tokens. Great business model, by the way. But
Isn't
like,
that Andrew Tate's business model?
let's not.
What's wrong with him?
Everything?
Okay,
Everything.
fine. I'm just saying.
All right. Anyway, but like I think that it's kind of like those old like pay per call, like pay by the minute type things. And
1-800 numbers.
that
900s.
business model
One
will
900s, yeah.
that business model is so far away from perfect competition. It will
They're really good.
the
by
margins
way.
will go down for
Yeah.
sure, right? Like,
No, but
and so I don't know. I just find it fascinating that she's the first, and maybe
just
she.
think about it. Like that's a perfect little comp there. Like the fact that the 900 numbers were ever a thing to begin with, and the fact that they made so much money for so many years. Why wouldn't this?
Okay, 'cause
Obviously,
no.
it would, and it's going to be a huge industry.
I
To
have a
me,
thought.
I please go. But Karen AI to me is nothing more than the beachhead from a business perspective to what the new world of sex looks like. We are just beginning to see what is possible, and we are going to be blown away by the Karen AIs that do things like just talk to you, show you images. Like, okay, here's another example. Like, Karen AI soon will have the ability to auto-generate an image for you to your liking. I mean, if we can get graphic, I think we can. It's
Except
YouTube,
the fingers
right?
and the feet, it won't come out good.
Okay. So if you say to Karen,
If
like,
you're into that.
like, show me what it would look like for this or that to happen, and she can generate it, why wouldn't you pay for that? It's her and it's you. You can upload a photo and say, generate an image of what it looks. Generate a video. Generate a video of us having sex. Generate a video of us. Okay, now let's go a little bit more forward, even to the point where
Go on.
I integrate my VR headset into the whole equation. And now I'm having sex with this fantasy girl that I've known since high school and I've always wanted to have sex with. And I get to tell her to say what I want her to say. I've wanted her to say this my whole life. Do what I wanted her to do my whole life. Give whatever I've ever wanted her to give to me my whole life. I would pay incredible incredible amount of money, like incredible amounts of money to do these things. And do you know how many people out there are willing to do these things? And do you know how big of an industry this is going to be? It's going to blow people away. It's going to blow people away.
What I found fascinating about it, because like we certainly maybe have like take a spike into what it looks like to use AI to maybe create non-human OnlyFans accounts. It's actually more difficult than you think, but I thought that was the immediate path. As to the path that you're pointing about is like maybe people want that. They want the perfect type of girl that they've been imagining in their life. They follow them. They pay for images and videos of this specific woman, whether she or man, whether they exist or not. But like what surprised me is that she's not providing that. She's just providing like companionship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she has a proof of concept that fucking works.
Yes.
And she didn't have to go that far. She didn't have to go to that extent. And I think it's important to note that like in this same week, the Surgeon General of the United States put up loneliness as like a serious disease,
Right.
and said that it is as dangerous as smoking. That being as lonely harms your longevity as much as smoking does. And so Karen and I put up a post. This is on May 11th. And she says, Karen herself references, Karen AI is the first step in the right direction to cure loneliness. Men are told to suppress their emotions, hide their masculinity, and to not talk about issues they are having. I've got to fix this with Karen AI. I've worked with the world's leading psychologists to seamlessly, and she goes on to talk about like how she's
already
necessarily like doing this. And she talks about CPT and DPT with chats. I don't understand that. But she says this will help undo trauma, rebuild physical and emotional confidence, and rebuild what has been taken away by the pandemic. So she's not necessarily providing like a XXX like need. She's actually going after just straight up loneliness, which might even be just as big as a market as what we assume to be like, you know, the immediate market of this thing. Eric, I was curious what you were going to say earlier.
I think like my thoughts are along the same lines. So like we can get porn whenever we want to.
Right.
Like porn exists. So I think like the need for curated porn, I mean that also exists, but it's like less of a need. But I think you need the companionship, right? So you know this could be this new model, but I don't think that people are going to find themselves fulfilled by that type of companionship. Like all I'm looking at is her dollar figure, right? Like her revenue right now. She's extrapolating that into some future revenue. She said 5 million in this Fortune magazine thing. She extrapolated her current revenue into some future, and I'm saying like
it was hyperbole and it was a great headline.
Yeah, and my take is that like I think the majority of her revenue now are people that are actually like more like us, who are like just experimenting for the dabbling sake than it is
the
like,
novelty.
Yeah, for the novelty factor than it is like people that are actually like seeking companionship. Like maybe that is a smaller percentage of her revenue.
I think there's a huge number of people that actually are looking for what she has to offer, but they aren't actually looking for her. They're just looking for it.
Or someone?
Correct.
It or someone.
Anyone.
That's what I mean. And so what's coming is, first of all, you'll have many variations of her. You'll have every OnlyFans and Snapchat girl doing the same thing. On top of that, you already have companies that are attempting to do this. I don't know if you guys know, but there are like multiple companies whose entire like $100 million raise so far is just to do this. And I think there's like 2 or 3 of them. I don't know them by name.
Sorry, to solve the loneliness issue? Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And to provide companionship and sex and sexting, I should say, and like whatever that evolves into, which is like video and image and whatever. Ultimately, what we are obviously creating is like the Her world. The movie Her is phenomenal. And I've said this for as long as this podcast has existed. I think it's the best, most accurate version of the future world that exists, but it's only like a very small subset of the world that exists because he falls in love with an operating system as if that's the only thing that he can do. But there's so much more that this person, we, will be able to do in the future beyond just falling in love with your operating system. The reason they picked the operating system in the movie is because it was the most meta example of what you could fall in love with. It wasn't an AI. It wasn't like an individual program. It wasn't like an individual website. It was the thing that you operate with, that's in your ears, that's on your computer. It's physical. It's oral. It's all the things at all times. It goes with you wherever you go. So it made sense. But like, I think what we're going to delve into is going to be far larger, far crazier, far more multifaceted than we can possibly imagine.
Wait, hold
And,
up. Would you have fallen in love with the operating system?
Yes.
Sure. I think like anyone could fall privy to that. It's
Like
literally
not me today,
Why?
not me today, but like, could I?
because it's the
Absolutely,
exact
I could fall
proxy
in love
for what companionship looks like in real life. It's like the exact same thing. Why would you not?
She's perfect. He's perfect.
And
It's like this perfect thing that you've always wanted, that intellectually stimulate, especially if you have intellectual stimulation as a love language. It intellectually stimulates you exactly the fucking way you want. How could you not fall in love with that thing? You know,
It's
There's gonna
made
be
for
so
you.
many
it's curated.
people
Yeah.
that just become obsessed. And to be fair to your point, Nick, it's like, well, to go further on it, I should say, is it a good thing? It
Yeah,
could
I think
be a
that's the next
great
question
thing.
is like, is this a good thing? Like society wide, right?
If loneliness is an epidemic, isn't it a good thing?
no, I think this probably promotes it more than it solves it.
Okay, that's worth why.
And like, also, is there a bias of us? Like, I don't know if you noticed, but like, as we get older, we become typically more conservative of like the old ways. And we often like joke about how like our parents and our grandparents like refer to the old ways of how things should be done and how they used to be done. Like, so is this a little bit of bias of that? Or is this just a new technology that like solves the problem a little better? I actually don't know.
Yo, this is a good point, actually. Like, we're familiar in crypto with the concept of Lindy,
Yeah.
right?
Shit that lasts.
Yeah. So a good Taleb talks about this in Anti-Fragile. He says like,
Well, you're banned by Taleb, by the way.
Yeah, you got blocked.
You got
he
blocked.
blocked me.
Was that your greatest accomplishment? Of
No, I'm
last
sad.
year?
Please unblock me, Taleb. I've read all your books and I like them.
Shouldn't have trolled him.
I didn't troll him. I was just like, I disagree with this take, and he was like blocked.
Apparently, he's like very sensitive.
He's very sensitive. But anyway, like one of the points in the book is like a chair has Lindy. He's like, take a chair. It's one of the most ubiquitous, widely used things. It's got 4 legs. It's got a thing to sit on. It's got a back. Like there has been no innovation on this thing for hundreds, if not thousands of years.
Right.
It has Lindy. Like it's not getting any better. It's a chair. And if anybody presents you an alternative to a chair, they're like, yo, I have a better chair. Your antenna would go up and be like, do you? Because the chair is pretty good. Like you wouldn't be like, fuck yeah, this chair sucks. Chairs are a thing of the past. I don't like chairs. My butt needs something new. You'd be skeptical. You'd be like, chairs are pretty good. Like you better have something good there, right? So if you're going to change something that's very, very old and ingrained in the world, like it's like a high bar for it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I guess that's the essence of Lindy.
Right. So, like, do we have a pretty high bar to pass because we're used to the old thing?
Companionship's pretty good. Like,
yeah, like
physical.
real life companionship. Like,
yeah.
I don't know, going out by yourself
big
if you
part.
need to make friends, like becoming part of like.
And
I
if I
don't
were
know.
to, if I were to play it out further, I think the way it goes, which could easily exist, is where you have men and women both isolated in these experience pods where they get exactly what they want, but then like when you sort of curate your ideal experience, then you basically get milked. Like as a guy, you get milked, and then that just goes into this depository, and that depository like goes into like this women's version of like, deposit me, and then
Yeah.
that's fine.
I do agree that like your take of, is this AI version solving loneliness? Is this pro humanity or not? And to me, it's certainly not pro humanity, right? Like, I think like pro humanity things is like actual procreation, actual like social interaction. And if you kind of have this technological solution that like aids people down a path of like actual isolation, meaning they're not around real humans, but they're interacting with something
What if we're
human-like.
thinking too limited about what it means to be human?
But no, but it ends in the procreation portion, right? Like you do need, in order to be pro humanity, you need.
Procreation exists in the realm that we know it to exist today, but what if it existed in different ways in the future?
That's what I'm saying. Like, you get milked and it goes into this depository, and then like humanity continues to exist because you're like, guys are getting fucked by a machine, but like their experience looks different.
Mhm.
And then a girl gets inseminated by a machine, but then her experience looks and feels different.
So you give
And
me
are
like
you
a vending machine
describing-
situation, like a deposit and a vending machine situation.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
you deposit, you get out pops a
It
baby.
sounds like one of the pods in the Matrix, but like in a different way.
And that's
Like,
the way that I see it functioning, sort of like properly. That's like the way I see it actually working, where it's like humanity continues to exist. Like, that's the way it works.
Hmm.
It doesn't work if you like continue to actually fuck each other. Like, there's no way.
it doesn't work.
There's no way, because why would you ever go back into this world where you don't curate your partner? You like just deal with one.
Oh, many reasons. Because you're an analog person and you like the sort of novelty of not being able to choose and push a button to get what you want. And you want to be able to go out and go to the bar and be able to like fall for someone and engage them and see if you can get them and all the analog things. Like, I think there's going to be this like great divide of people who are like, I prefer things the way they used to be, the conservative
Yeah.
take, versus the ones who are like so pro technology
But
and
that will,
being able
like-
to get things the way they want them.
But don't you think that will exist along the path towards the end result, which is what I'm describing, where it's like you got people who like classic cars, for instance, but that's like a subset of all car owners. Car owners are just like, you just give me like the latest and greatest, fine. And like, then you have like this very select subset. It's like, I prefer the way things used to be, and it's like a minority.
This will exist forever.
So
Yes.
Armand, I don't remember like the conclusion of her. Like, does it paint a future of like what her, the society of like where her exists looks like, and like where does the protagonist like end up?
I don't remember.
So like, but is this a situation where the protagonist is in a positive situation? Like this ends well for him, and like, no, I don't remember the movie.
I don't remember either.
So
I just remember
Steven,
him,
do you
like-
remember
Yeah,
this
I
at
definitely
all?
remember it being a heartbreak story. I mean,
So what do you remember of this, Steven?
Look,
Piece it
I
together.
don't remember everything to T, but I remember it being like the essence of it was, oh, this poor human was manipulated by this machine
Right.
with this feeble human like emotional proclivities, and now he is like putty in her hands, and his life is now forever woe, and this will happen to everybody else as well, because these poor humans are but emotional humans, and the robots will just manipulate us to their own ends. That's like
it's a beautiful
kind of
movie.
my
It's
takeaway
so
from
good.
it.
Okay.
It's so good. I think the key thing here is, and so, Sam Altman just recently spoke in front of Congress, right?
Yeah, he did.
And then of course we had the letter that was signed by some incredibly important and prolific AI scientists and evangelists. The fact that like so many AI evangelists got behind this letter to pause development of AI and are in favor of the government getting, like, here's the thing about AI evangelists. They're way smarter than anyone in government. But
Okay.
the people that are in government, this is you can
Continue.
go, but like all I have to say is the people that are behind the technology are way smarter than the people in government. of course, about their realm, but also I would argue, like, objectively speaking, like, they're just smarter people. But this technology is so critically in need of regulation and universal sort of just like principles that we all adhere to, that they are at the level of understanding that this is that important and that detrimental to society if it gets out of the bag, that they're going to an inferior group of people and saying, we need your help. Because if you don't do something to control our industry, it will be bad for everybody. And by that, I mean, you have OpenAI, Google, Assembly AI, I mean, everyone, Meta, like they're all sort of competing in the same direct, and not to mention the companies that exist outside the United States that will probably usurp a lot of the US companies very quickly, moving incredibly fast, and they need the help of the government, which notoriously has not known even how to use email. Probably a bad example, unfair, but there are people in the government that literally don't know how to use their email. What do you think about that, Nick?
I mean, I think it's fascinating that we have a guy like Sam Altman, who actually owns zero equity in OpenAI, which I learned for the first time during the Senate hearing.
Yeah, congressional hearing.
Yeah, the congressional hearing.
Yeah.
He said he owns zero equity.
What a sucker.
Yeah, and he says like, I just do it because I love it. I mean, he's obviously what I hope to refer to us as at some point is post economics. He like doesn't care about having more money, but like we have an actor in this play that doesn't care about money, but he's clearly saying like, yeah, this could go good or this could go bad. And Elon Musk did an interview with David Faber recently. I think it was even yesterday. I think it's cool to watch. I watched a few clips of it, and he talks about like David
Who's
Faber's
that?
like David Faber's like a host on CNBC, and you know, Elon says like, or David Faber questions like, why do you tweet what you tweet? Like, why? Like, why not just shut up and like make more money? And he makes a reference to a movie and goes on, but he just says like, give me power, give me power, give me more money. I don't care. And effectually he says like, I will say what I want to say. I don't care if I lose money. So you have these two actors who are kind of opposing sides who are like post economics saying we can make this good. And this guy saying, no, this is going to end very badly. And I'm kind of interested.
Oh, and neither one of them said this is going to end very badly.
No, well,
to be
I think Elon is obviously saying
Well,
that
he like signed this paper that
the
said that it
probability
could end badly.
Yeah, the probability
No,
is high that it could end badly. And Sam Altman saying,
There we go.
I'm weighing it more balanced. Like I feel like I have control over this, but like
Well,
also
he's in a interesting position.
but it's interesting that we don't have the typical levers of capitalism at play with these two actors, right? Like they're
Yeah.
both have enough money. One
both
that literally
close.
doesn't make money off his new company, and the other
Which is like possibly the greatest company that has ever existed.
potentially.
The greatest product that has ever existed. Clearly, objectively, the fastest adopted product of all time. We can say
Right.
that. ChatGPT.
So will this will be an interesting play out to see like, will this produce us a different result? That we have two people who are not motivated by profit, kind of like
Playing it
potentially
out.
posing opposite sides. But I do think there's a place for you know, the worst capital allocators on earth, the federal government. And I don't know, maybe
That's
they'll help us.
essentially what I was trying to say.
No, yeah, you said it. I think you said it well.
I don't think I said it well, but they're the worst capital allocators on the planet. They're the wrong people to make the decisions. But perhaps they're the best policymakers because that is actually the root of their job in so many ways. And that is what they're being called in to do, is to please create policy that prevents us from destructing ourselves.
But even
That's what I
even
hear.
Elon admitted
That's what
that
I
his
hear when I
letter
read
is
everything.
literally worthless. Like he's admitted that like signing that letter meant nothing. It was futile. And I do think similarly, U.S. regulators will be
Disagreed.
futile
Disagreed.
because
Sam Altman would not have been in front of Congress if it were not for that letter.
okay, possibly.
No, 100%.
But the point still remains that we made this point as a group that like it's futile because AI is a global marketplace.
Mhm.
Like China, Russia, EU, like South America, if they can, you know, put their pants on straight. But the point is that like they will continue to progress if we do not decide to. So like
That's very true.
US regulators can only regulate so much. You can only like weaponize the dollar so much to like, play by your set of rules. So I think we'll run into the same issue.
Oh boy.
Anyway,
All right.
That's your response. Oh boy.
Yeah, that's my
Oh.
response.
Oh
What are you gonna
boy.
do with that?
I don't know. I was switching the camera for some dramatic response from the bearded guy, and he just went, "Oh
so
boy."
Pat says
You're a
Elon
bearded
is
guy.
Elon's also making robots. Maybe in the future he's hedging to have a robot army to fight back against AI.
Did you guys see the robots?
Sure did.
Yeah, of course.
Wait, what robots?
The
So,
Elon robots.
The Tesla robots. Like at first,
Like from like 7 months ago?
No,
yes,
hold on.
yes.
The ones from today.
What?
Yesterday.
So they had
There were new ones?
They had a
Yeah.
shareholders
A
meeting.
little show.
They had a shareholders meeting yesterday where what's the name of the robot? Do you remember?
Like a Frederick or something.
Unit. No, it's like Eunice something. Whatever.
Frederick is a
No,
I would name it Frederick.
No, it's some name.
I would name it like Melvin or Deuteronomy.
I
or
thought it was like
something.
Unison. That's like
Deuteronomy?
He wanted to name his
Did you ever
kid
see that
Deuteronomy if it was a
episode Did you
male.
ever see that episode of Seinfeld? Honestly, I still want to name my first son Deuteronomy. You ever see that episode of Seinfeld? Where he
God
says,
bless his
Deuteronomy,
childhood.
What do you even have as a
Deuteronomy,
nickname if
come
you're-
get your sandwich. And I just want to be able to say that. Deuteronomy,
What's your
come get your
nickname? Like
sandwich.
Dudo?
Dude.
Judy?
Dude. Deuter.
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 All right, can we let Eric finish his point?
Yeah, well,
There's
yeah.
no point. Like we saw, this is a fact. It's not a point. Like
Okay.
there was a Tesla shareholders meeting where they were talking about the Tesla robot, where Elon explicitly said that this will be our biggest value creator going forward. It won't be cars or batteries. Like we've like valued Tesla as an energy company or a car company or whatever, and like Elon explicitly said
It's not that.
this is like basically this is a robot company.
I mean, he's pitching the company as like post automobile in a way,
Yes.
right? Because if it's an automobile company, it's just not worth that much.
No,
Yes.
he didn't say post automobile. He just says it's
I mean,
just
he didn't
beyond.
literally say post automobile. When I say we want to say trans automobile. It's trans.
Whatever you want to
automobile.
say, but it's
It's
just
beyond
like it's these seven
automobile.
companies that you don't want to
But
acknowledge exist.
it is
You know?
a machine that has computer vision, meaning not LiDAR or like whatever you want to think. Like it actually uses how we see images as we see and interprets them as we see. It's a machine that does it. So like, did he explain his vision on what he expands, like why they're so
Well,
valuable? Like,
just to
is it a robot in my home that comes out of a closet and fixes
Yes.
the toilet or
So,
what?
like something a lot of people get wrong about the Tesla robot versus the Boston Dynamics one. Okay. The Boston one has been at play for many years, almost like a decade and a half, if I'm not mistaken, at this point. And their technology in terms of like how adaptive their robot is to be able to be just like aerobic is far superior. But what they're optimizing for is like this robot to basically be this like fucking athlete that can do anything you want it to do, but it can only do it for like 2 hours. The Tesla robot is designed to be a worker. It is designed to replace like factory workers and be a grinder. So it's not as impressive when you're watching it move. It's not as dynamic. It's not as aerobic. But what it is it's a grinder that can be like off its battery for 12 hours at a time. It can come to your home eventually, maybe, and cook and like clean or work in a factory and be able to work on an assembly line. Whereas the Boston one is just like, it's like, what the fuck did that robot just do a backflip? Which from the Tesla perspective is like, what's the point of a backflip? Like, what utility does that provide? Not saying one is better than the other. I think we'll find a utility for the backflip, maybe.
Yeah,
But the
backflips
point
are pretty
is,
cool.
if you can have a robot for $20,000 to $25,000 that can replace multiple people in your life at a fraction of the cost, would you take it?
Dude,
Yes,
finally
you
the
would.
fucking Jetsons.
Yes, you would.
The Jetsons delivering
Yes.
on like a prediction.
you
Like
would.
we were promised jetpacks, but like if we get a home robot that like comes out of the closet and like cleans the place when
does
I'm
my
not there.
dishes and shit.
Yeah,
Like,
does my dishes.
Think about how much your cleaner costs. I mean, my cleaner costs approximately $400 a month.
Whoa, we need to chop that.
Do we?
No, I'm kidding, I'm
twice
kidding.
twice a month $200 a pop. So it's like, okay, you know, like how much do you really need here? Like a $400 a month subscription. What do you expect for that level of like payment? I think you can expect quite a bit from a robot to be able to like supply more than just like a once every. I think I could expect more than once every 2 weeks cleaning. I think I think that you would be quite happy with that from a robot.
So
I
as
really do.
as we all know, Elon's very good at spinning a yarn and selling a vision. Like that's literally how
Right.
he's like created his
Yeah, that's
whole
his shtick.
empire. That's his shtick. I'd like to focus on the here and now as well. Like in this presentation, he also explicitly said that the Model Y will be the best selling vehicle in the globe and in the history of the globe.
I want one.
History.
So
Does that
like
matter?
I don't want one. Do you guys want one?
Well, we took
I'll take
an
one.
Uber
It was
that
a
was
Y.
a Model Y from the office to the
It's
ballpark.
great.
it's fine.
It feels like
It's fine.
a little futuristic.
It does. but
Yeah.
It feels. It's also like awkward.
So like I think that there's like multiple components moving at the same time, and like we're talking about the sort of futuristic element, but at one point the Model Y was a futuristic element of his narrative, and like I think what he's suggesting is that like, you know, what was the future is now the now, and then what is the future will become the present eventually, and
Yeah.
you know I think he's a good salesman of that vision, and I would probably be a buyer. I'd be more likely to be a buyer than a seller of
I mean,
his vision.
If they can get a car to like navigate in a real time scenario well, safely, better than current safety records of humans, like I would place bets they can certainly put a robot in people's homes that could do things that like would, you know, cause people to pay for them. I know you're like anti Elon's like visions, but
I'm
like
not anti Elon's visions. I just think some of them, most of them,
Don't
are
try to backtrack
hyperbolic
on
and like
this.
fake.
I got
yeah,
it.
but like
on,
let's not say 2 years from now, but
I'm
like
not backtracking on that. Like I stand by my statement.
7
that
years from now.
most of Elon's visions are hyperbolic and fake.
and
like,
you're
the vast
being
majority
less
of them.
hyperbolic about your position, which is fine.
all right.
I stand by that position. That position is real. Like
So-
even to this day, like the cyber, like remember the Cybertruck? Did we all forget the Cybertruck
Oh,
already?
that was a big part of his presentation too.
What did he say?
Like, he said, in the next 12 months, I will ship as many Cybertrucks as there is demand to buy them.
Yeah, I would
I think
encourage
I want
everybody
I
to go
think
back.
I want a Cybertruck.
Okay,
I want to see one. but I
go
think
back
I
to the
want one.
Cybertruck video. He takes a sledgehammer and hits the door with like the side of
It's
it.
a prototype.
and then if
This
you
is
zoom
dumb.
in with it,
This
it's
is
like
such
one of those
a dumb
like
comment. No,
it's fake.
no,
It's
no.
fake.
No,
is
no, no.
This is
designed-
I think what
good.
elicits
This is
a-
not good, Steve.
He's obviously going to
Oh,
fix that part.
really? Oh, like the fucking self-driving trailer truck. Where are those?
Steven.
Like he look, this is his shtick. He
It
gives you
is
something that just
a prototype.
tantalizes you, and you're like,
Do you
oh
know
my
the
God,
risk-
I want this to be true.
Do you know the risk he took to
And
do
then-
that? Think about the risk he
The
took to
risky
do
trick
that.
to do what?
To make that presentation and deliver that prototype.
To deliver like a truck that he just broke the window accidentally in the presentation.
how
and
many
hit it with a
times-
fake sledgehammer?
Think about
and then,
how many
like, never
times they
delivered
did
it?
that presentation in preparation and it went well and then it didn't. And that was a complete bust. And they didn't want it to go
Bill
that
Gates
way.
did the same
Of course they
presentation from
didn't want it to
Microsoft,
go
by the
that
way, blue screen of death in his presentation.
Think about you think that was an accident? That was a complete, I mean, of course it was an accident, but
Do you
it
think
was
it
a
was an
complete,
accident? You think it was an
was
accident
a
that he hit
complete
his
mishap.
sledgehammer with like the side of it, and it was like one of those like rubber bounce sledgehammers?
Do you think they didn't attempt to do that before the presentation?
I think it's bullshit. I think a lot of it is bullshit. I think it's like, look, with this stuff, like there's always just enough real stuff there for people to be like, wow, this is great, and I love this guy, and this is awesome. And like everybody wants to be like, this is entirely bullshit or this is entirely awesome. And the truth is like somewhere in between. It's somewhere in the middle. And like he wants both
Fine.
people in a particular spot.
You know
That's right.
You know
That's
what's
right.
You know what's beautiful is
That's
that
correct.
you get to vote with your dollars. If you hate the vision
Yeah,
so
have you
much,
seen the Polestar 3, by the way? That thing
What's
looks
that?
legit.
What's a
Short
Polestar 3?
stock, you don't
Hoffman,
like it?
Hoffman has the Polestar 2.
What is
one
it?
we rode in.
Well, he
Yeah,
used
the
to.
car.
I
The
would
car.
rather,
It's a
I
car?
would rather buy that car than a Model
Yes.
Y.
So, Nick, the car that we drove into Joshua Tree
Oh,
that
yeah,
David has,
Yeah.
Hoffman, that's the Polestar, right?
Oh.
So the Polestar 3 is coming out and it looks fucking legit. I love it. And it's like it's like buying an Android when there's an iPhone, in my opinion.
like who here
To
has an
simplify
electric
it.
car?
I don't.
Like
Negative.
it sounds
Nobody has
infuriating
one.
because like you have to like I want to be able to drive to LA and back without
Oh.
having to worry
Can I
one
tell
bit.
you that I took a road trip to Scottsdale, Arizona, and we had to refuel like way earlier than whenever they anticipated.
And how long did it take, by the way?
Oh, it's so fucking
45
long.
minutes.
Yeah, it was not it ran out of battery quicker than the expectation, and it took longer to refuel than the
I
expectation.
have the opposite take. I just went to Mexico, right? We went to Valle, and my buddy in my forum had a Ford F-150 Lightning. This is a truck. This thing was the most luxurious car that I've ever been in my whole life. It was a truck, all electric. The trunk, which should have been an engine, was a frunk. It was like an extra trunk.
Frunk.
Yeah, with an ice cooler implemented. The inside of it and the whole ride was the most smooth experience I've ever like been. Like it was unbelievable. What's funny about the whole thing is that
Kind of
what
like an
caused-
anti-Tesla.
what caused Ford
sales
to
pitch.
do it was because Tesla came out and said, we're going to create a Cybertruck. And then Ford went, why don't we have an electric vehicle? And then came out with the Lightning, which is better than anything that exists on the market today. And this is an $80,000 vehicle, by the way. That's incredible. I mean, honestly, I'm telling
But
you.
did it
like,
get to
straight
Valle
up.
and back? Okay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It was the nicest car I've ever been in.
Was there any anxiety over the battery life?
The place we stayed had electric
Little plug-in guy.
charging.
That's the thing I
So-
don't want because, like, you know, gas stations are pretty good at what they do. Like within minutes, you can refuel a car for the next like 500
Yeah, but
miles.
what if there was as many gas stations as there was electric fucking pumps?
Yeah, but where does the like energy source come from? That electricity is what I
Oh,
come
don't
back
worry
to,
about
and
all
we'll
that.
talk about that.
That's a different episode.
Yeah,
Don't
it is a
worry
different
about all
The
episode.
that.
problem isn't that there aren't electric chargers. It's like when you get to the electric gas station, you have to go inside and like sleep for
Fuck around for
like
45
1
minutes.
to 3 hours to
Yeah.
get your thing charged, which is a bad experience for people who like to road trip. But
And when
it's-
we road trip to Arizona, what we found was that like this one is a supercharger, this was a supercharger. These two are not, but the two that are occupied, and then like you kind of like get rugged. a little
Solvable
bit.
problem. I agree. Solvable problem. Like it will be solved over time, but still, not gonna get my dollars for now.
You're not an electric guy?
No. I'm honestly like conflicted of whether it's like a good environmental impact or not. Like we're trading off, you know, fossil fuels for rare earth minerals.
Well, Elon talked about that. He said that his future cars will have 0 rare earth minerals, and every
of course he said that.
every
Of course he
cobalt,
said that.
every piece of cobalt in the supply chain will be audited to make sure that there are no underage
Of
workers.
course,
Sure.
it just runs on
So I'm
unicorn
sorry.
urine.
Beyond the cobalt, what was the comment about?
So he specifically said cobalt. They're going to audit the supply chain and make sure
it's not what we talked about.
exactly what we talked about. And he's the only guy who's like really sort of explicitly targeted that conversation.
Great. It's great. Right?
And in addition, he said in future cars, we're going to make it so that we're not relying on rare earth minerals. We're going to reduce I don't even remember what the fuck he was talking about. It was like XY. We're going to reduce the XYZ reliance to make it so that we are
So Stan
non-reliant.
Druckenmiller thinks copper is like one of the best
Yes,
demand
and
supply. Did Elon mention copper at all?
Elon said we're reducing our our copper reliance to almost have 0 copper in our vehicles.
Okay.
What's the deal here? Like we've talked about this a little bit with electric cars. Like
What's
Seinfeld.
the deal?
What's
with
the
airlines?
deal?
No, hey, so, come on, Steven, adesso pasa. So, don't worry, you're fine.
That's
It's
so
going to be
offensive.
okay. What? Because I'm racist and you're Italian?
Yes.
So
Thank you.
you're not actually real Italian. You're mostly Native American.
Yeah, you're mostly.
You
yeah.
claim
Which
that
one do you
flag
want to
already.
be?
Whichever one. he
Which
wants
one
to
has the most tax
serve
benefits?
can be
Which
both.
one?
I can be both, you racist motherfucker.
So what's the deal from a simple perspective with why the electric car is a con? Like, I've never understood this. Like, okay, you have to draw electricity from the grid. That's obvious. Is there a way to create a sustainable path to electric cars?
I feel like this is the case with all new tech, right? When the tech comes out, it's not that good. It sucks for a variety of reasons. It sucks from a use case perspective. And then it also sucks when you take a step back and look at, well, how do we produce this? Right. But the reason new tech gets adopted is because there's this core group of fanboys that I think is like so excited by the vision of the future, which is often accurate, right? That they overlook that, and their demand propels it forward, because you have to have the demands to get like your unit costs down on whatever your raw materials are, and like all this is necessary. So I think to some degree, when you put a new product out in the world, you are selling a vision of what it could be, not what it is, because what it is in the moment usually sucks, actually, like if you strip all the hype away.
Do you at your core level, because I honestly, I know we disagree a lot, but I really feel like fundamentally we agree in a lot of ways. Do you truly feel that there's a problem with that?
A problem with what? Like the hype cycle in general?
Problem with proposing a future that does not exist today, that is one that we as a species want to acquire and is like optimistic and desirable, like at all.
I do.
Like, what's the problem with that?
It's a problem because literally every single snake oil type product that has ever existed from the dawn of man has promised somebody a future state that is better than their current state, that if they just buy this product, everything will be good and they don't have to give up anything in return other than like these quantifiable dollars, which is just far like the benefits are far in excess of that. So you have nothing to lose. Everybody has always made that pitch, right? So we should always be skeptical of that pitch. That's always like where the incentives lie. And like we give like a pass to a lot of people in the green energy sector because we zoom out and look at a world where we just are powered by the sun or the energy of the universe. We're like this class 2 or class 3 civilization that can just harness all of the energy of the sun, harness all the energy of the universe. We're like, wow, if we could get there, we could have infinite and we just think of that and we just skip to that and we just skip over all of the shit in the middle, like with electric cars, like the cobalt and the lithium and the production. And that's just the production end of them. And once you have them, you have to charge them. And then like, what does the grid look like? Like everybody wants you to gloss over that. And to an extent, that's good, because if we didn't gloss over it, people would be like, no, this is fucked. And we just wouldn't do it. So there's some like suspended disbelief that's needed. People have to ignore that so that we can actually, push the boulder down the hill and get it moving. But also there's a point where you're like, that's not really realistic. So we have to ask questions. But yeah, I forgot what you asked me, but I'm not an optimist. I'm not a pessimist. I'm somewhere in between on all this.
Okay. So you're not anything.
Yes, that's right. I'm not.
I can't label you.
I am literally
So I literally can't label you.
I am a
If I had to label it,
I'm a skepto optimist.
If I had, okay, there it is.
Thank you.
Skepto
I just
optimist.
coined that term.
That sounds like an optimist. I think that optimist nature is to be skeptical.
We should all be skeptical.
I think Kevin Kelly had described it that way.
Yes.
Did he not?
Yes. He's a skepto optimist about crypto.
He's
Generally
skepto
optimistic about the
everything.
future. He has some questions, as he should, about any new tech, but he's generally optimistic. I don't think it's useful to be like, no, it's all fucking stupid. Shut it all down. It's all useless. It's going to take us all to hell.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you can't just be like, what's Elon doing now? Oh, that's great. We're going to go to Mars, and we're going to colonize the whole solar system, and we're all going to get jetpacks. And that's not good either. But at the same time, we do need people to do that outlandish stuff. It's like a balance. I don't know. It's messy and complicated. That's my answer.
I'd like to point out that Marty in the chat, as a recap, he pointed out that he said Larry David in the chat was complaining about his $19 hot dog plus tips. Larry David, he called you.
Also, I want to circle back on the Boston Dynamics comment. Got some talk in the chat as well. Like, if you're interested in that kind of stuff, Mark Milley, he's the current chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He did a great interview with Foreign Affairs magazine. You can search for it on YouTube. It's done in the last 10 days. He talks about how to avoid a like superpower war between like Russia, US, China, US, but also at the end, he talks about what he thinks future wars will look like and how to reposition. And certainly robots are part of his vision, which is
Nick,
kind of
I
creepy.
have an offer for you.
Yeah, an offer.
Yeah,
Can you refuse? Can he refuse it?
of course he can.
Yeah.
No, he can't.
I have
You
it-
cannot refuse this offer.
Of course he can. I feel like you're the type of person that enjoys your time to yourself. Would you
Yeah.
agree with that?
Yeah, like the airport time was fantastic.
Okay. So I'm on this tip lately where originally I wanted to go to a cabin by myself. I have this dream. I have this like Walden
You have
dream.
a dream.
I was saying, is this a Walden
Yeah,
situation?
it's very
I have
Walden.
a Walden dream.
Very Walden.
Okay. So I have this Walden dream that I want to go to a cabin by myself for a long period of time. I talked to my wife about it, as you guys
Talk
know.
to your daughter
Erica.
about it.
My wife is my daughter's not okay with this. My daughter has refused my request, but my wife is supportive of a like 1 month sabbatical where I'm just gone, right? I'm just gone and I go to a cabin. And then I had this moment where I realized I was like, what if the cabin was moving? Because movement creates creativity. What if it was on a train? What if I was on a train the whole time?
Okay.
So then I started going down the YouTube rabbit hole of like long distance train travel.
India is like a great place to do
Or
that.
the Trans-Siberian.
Yep.
Yeah,
I
or
feel
like,
like this is a movie.
it is. You're in a movie right now, and it's your movie, and we're all in it, Steven.
Snowpiercer. That's
and,
the movie.
Oh, that is a movie. That is a movie.
Move your
I've been
way
meaning
up to
to
the
watch
All
front.
that.
humanity's on like a train.
Yeah. Move
Meaning
your
to
way up to
watch
the
that.
front.
So my question is, how interested would you be, because this is something I'm going to do in the next year as a life goal, to go on a long distance train trip? It wouldn't be a month, it'd be like a week, because
Okay.
the longest train that exists is like going from like Ontario to like Vancouver,
Fine.
or like
Yeah.
Chicago to like California. There is a long one in India, but that's a whole different world.
Sounds like a lame train.
That's
You
a
know,
whole
the
different world.
longest train in the world is Chicago to California.
No, it really is.
It'd be like,
No, because they have.
Really?
I think the longest one is in Australia. Honestly, I think it might be Australia. It's probably like a Sydney or Melbourne to Perth kind
Yeah.
of trip. But
Melbourne.
anyway, I have this dream of being bored, and what I mean by that is that I never get bored. I want so much time that I would just be able to like sit and read and like do my thing with. So anyway, that's my like
What's the offer though?
to join me on this adventure.
Oh, I mean, I'll happily join
a
you. on
train
that.
Really?
adventure.
Yeah. I mean,
I feel like
I'm still bartering.
I feel like you'd be on the borderline of like wanting that, Steven. And I feel like
Eric's
Eric,
not-
like,
not at
you're
all
not
He's
in.
out.
Like,
Out.
you're out because we learned that from
We've
the
done 2 to
dopamine.
3 day boredom scenarios.
done
where-
that.
Yeah. So like a week is not unattainable. But like I'm currently bartering for this Bhutan trip. Trying to get my
Ooh.
girlfriend to.
Is that the
Come with
happy
me.
place?
It is the happy place. I'm trying to get her to come.
I do want to.
This Nepal plane crash is throwing a little wiggle in my pitch.
Mm.
But anyway, like, if she doesn't come, I'm gonna go solo.
It's fine.
If that comes to it. So I may
Okay.
use my bartering chips up with this Bhutan trip. But I'm into it.
You could train travel around there. I
Oh.
think train travel is beautiful.
I love
I
it.
think it's like, okay, so you're into it.
I love train travel as a form of travel. I don't like prisons. So like
Wait,
if-
when does it become a prison versus when is it like a beautiful way to travel?
well, I think like you can like I could be in the comforts of wherever I am and do the things that you described
Yeah.
without having to be on the longest train on earth, you know?
Interesting. There's one in South America that's really good, but it goes up to like 14,000 feet elevation and it's like a whole thing. But yeah, there's a lot of these out there. I literally fell into the YouTube train travel.
I think
Is
I'll
that
go.
a niche?
what
It's
you
a
just
niche.
like what you've described in the past is that when you get into travel mode, you change your whole dynamic. Like,
everything changes.
for you.
Like my
like-
entire like literally everything changes.
You go into a Walden-esque state where you read and write only. You
Correct.
don't like it necessarily ingest like real-time internet type
I just
information.
feel like I'm my best self.
yeah.
It's just a special place.
Just
So.
a special place in first class on, going from, continent to continent. That's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, that's great.
All right, boys.
This has been really awesome. Boys.
I hope you guys like the new studio. Like it's we
I
like
did
it.
not expect to go this long, by the way, but here we are.
So what happens when
Steven
you-
made me.
Yeah,
I hope-
great abridged.
I hope
episode,
Bandit liked
guys.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah, if you guys are in the chat, don't know who we are, what we are, like definitely like and subscribe if you haven't already. Alfalfapod.com has all the links to hop in the Discord, which is where most of the people you see in the chat, which Josh mentions, all the alpha
Yeah, if you
is
like talking
in
about
the chat.
trains and batteries, and that was a terrible pitch. I'm so sorry.
You're gonna say it.
You want to hear a story about a bridge?
But anyway, yeah, we're in the Discord every day. Most of the community's in the Discord every day, so come join us if you aren't already.
Thank you, Nick. Did
Yeah.
you guys see the Tetris movie?
The
I
what
did.
movie?
It's so good.
It's so
The
good.
what movie?
Tetris.
Oh, I want to.
It's so good.
I actually wanted to ask
Watch
you
it tonight.
guys
Watch it tonight.
about the Air movie, but
I'm watching that tonight if I can.
Okay.
I already watched it.
Ooh,
Damn it.
Let's talk about it next week.
Yeah, next week.
Okay, I heard it's really good.
It's decent. It's very decent.
Let's not no
Above decent.
spoilers. I don't want to pre-blow your
Tetris
mind.
was incredible though.
well,
That guy was
obviously.
in he's a bruv from
Peaky
Kingsman.
Blinders? Oh, Kingsman. Okay. But anyway, yeah, there's a true story, like what happens in Tetris. And it's like a mix of like geopolitics and like entrepreneurship, which
Yeah, I
I
bet
feel like
you loved it.
our crew would definitely
Yeah.
enjoy.
Thank you. That was great.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
Any closing thoughts?
No, just join us every week. Let's do this. Let's have some fucking fun. And we love you guys.
Yeah. Thank
Peace.
you to everybody for joining us in the live chat. We will see you next week, same time, same place.
Peace.
Love you. Bye.
Yeah, boy. That was fun.